What's going on, everyone? Happy Sunday and welcome to the Seasoned Gaming Bitcast, episode 246, your weekly show covering all the biggest topics in gaming with industry, technical, and legal insight. I'm your host, Ainsley Bowden, joined by the full cast of characters this morning, which always makes me happy nowadays. First, in the upper right, I guess, is Mr. Dennis McManus with the two purple cats. What are we rocking today?
No, it's K-State, baby.
Oh, K-State. There you go. Yeah, I couldn't see the logo.
Cocaine Willie and his side piece, I guess. I don't know who That's what they call it. You know, I have no idea what she sold. So,
okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like a version of the Cocaine Willie is what they call him.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
My wife is a fan, and I got this shirt because we went to a basketball game. And
okay.
I had no, yeah, so.
You know, I would have guessed Meth Willie, but either way, it works.
It is Kansas, so I can see where you're going.
Sure. Mr. Tie Guy Travis McClunky, sir.
McClunky and Cocaine Travis actually is what I go by.
I heard that's how San Francisco rolls.
San Francisco is much more cocaine than meth, I would say. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Scooped cocaine, I hear.
Yeah, scooped cocaine. Yeah, yeah. It's gluten-free for sure.
Oh man! And last but certainly not least, good to have him right at the start of the show this morning, Mr. HoegLaw. Good morning, brother.
Good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me. I have no drugs to affix to my name.
Doubt that. I really doubt that in your current state. Come
Not
on.
illegal ones, maybe.
Painkillers. Come on, there's something out there.
I have no painkillers.
Opioid Hoeg. No,
that's good. That's good.
Wow. Impressive.
Fantastic.
I'm surprised. You're on no medication, really.
No, I'm on blood pressure medication.
Okay, there we go. Blood pressure med.
Exciting.
Hoeg. There we go.
Oh man, Chad. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon to you. Got a few things to discuss today. We've got Burning Shores for Horizon Forbidden West, which, of course, Dan has probably already completed. We've got a couple of showcases this week, including Street Fighter 6, another Diablo 4 showcase, and Nintendo Switch Indie showcase. Travis and I can finally talk about Dead Island 2 in our full reviews, along with stuff coming next week. PlayStation finalized an acquisition, so we'll be covering all of that and more. Before we get into the topics, though, I do want to give a special shout out to our favorite squirrel. So Secret Mix Squirrel, if you're not aware, going through some stuff in personal life, as we've talked about pretty heavily here, very supportive community, obviously. Things happen, right? We all deal with something at one time or another, and right now Squirrel's dealing with some pretty serious stuff. So if you can help out in any way, I have pinned at the top of the Seasoned Gaming channel chat the Just Giving link for the crowdfunding for Squirrel. Anything is appreciated. Hoeg, I actually not a mod on your channel, so I can't add it on yours. But if anyone on Hoeg's channel wants to add the link, you can find it, like I said, at the top of the SG channel and link that up. But anything would be appreciated. She
Absolutely.
does an awful lot for the community around here. So it would be definitely welcome.
Yeah, she's huge, man. I mean, I didn't know where she came from, to be honest. And then she started showing up, and then I actually DM'd her. And I was like, "Listen, you have done so much for, SG just within the last few months. It was amazing. I mean, most of them, I don't get a lot of interaction with my Twitter, which is by design. But most of my likes, retweets, and stuff like that are something that I mentioned from her, and she's been amazing. I see her do it for everybody, like on the law side, the law tube side of stuff, like Runkle and everybody, and Hoeg. So I really feel for what she's going through right now. So if you can support her, in any little way possible, that'd be awesome.
Yep. Fair enough. So, all right.
Roll away some money.
Give it to her.
You just had to get that in there, didn't you? Oh man. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the games that we've been messing around this week. Travis, we'll save Dead Island 2 for a second because we'll talk. There's a question I actually want to pose to you and to Dan and Hoeg to a lesser degree as well around the review process, because something came up last week. I forgot to bring it up last week. I told you I was going to bring it up, but I wanted to talk about that this week. So we'll get to that in a minute. But what's been good for you guys, man? Anything you've been playing this past week? And Dan, feel free to educate us on Burning Shores as well.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I've been playing a surprise game that I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I am, which is
Let's
the
go.
Disney Speedstorm game.
I got to be
IGN
honest with you, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Racing
Disney
game.
Kart Racer, Donald
Okay.
Duck, Mickey Mouse, Mulan,
Sweet.
racing around in carts, and it's a Game Loft game. So it's like Dreamlight Valley. It's going to be free to play in the future. So it's all
Sure.
set up to be free to play, but they're charging now for founders packs and things.
Sure.
So I think one of the things I saw in reviews, which is justified, is yeah, it's a good kart racer. It's smooth. It's got really nice tracks. I really enjoy it, but it's got all the stuff you would expect from kind of the mobile environment of how to earn characters and how to grind out various resources. And some people don't like that. I don't blame them. But I think in terms of playing a game, it gives you a lot of drive to go and do the next thing. So Gameloft has been doing mobile games forever. And so they know how the Skinner boxes work here. And so it's very enjoyable to say, all right, I'm going to do some multiplayer. I'm going to rank up my Mickey Mouse, and then I'm going to get wrenches that is going to make my Donald Duck better. And we're going to move from there. And so you have all these various resources and economies, and then seasons and battle passes and everything else that you expect from that kind of environment. And it will be free eventually. So it's kind of built that way. So anybody that looks at it right now and says, well, I don't feel like it's a $40 game or a $60 game or a $70 game. I think there are 3 packs. I don't blame them, but I've enjoyed the absolute heck out of it. It's just a really strong kart racer.
Wow. How many characters does it have right now? And I would assume they're going to kind of eventually add the whole gamut of, Disney characters.
I'd have to look because they have like all the economics working, but I think it's 5 at the front, and then like a couple of rotating people, like a League of Legends
Sure.
style or any other kind of thing like that. And then another, I would guess, dozen or so characters that you get from shards and things, if you're familiar with like mobile economics.
Yeah.
So you have to go and earn them that way, and you get through the season and you get different treasure chests that give you different shards. And then in order to upgrade them to higher levels, they have different upgrade resources. And you go and hit the button and say, where can I get these? And they'll tell you, tier 4 of season wherever, and then you'll go and do that race. But it's a lot of fun as a baseline game. The tracks are really nice. They've really gotten the characters in the game. So Sully looks like Sully from Monsters Inc. and
Nice.
Mickey looks like Mickey, and they're all wearing kind of racer garb. And I think one of the things I really like about that particular look is they've given all of the characters their kind of own sponsorship deals, like you would expect to see on a racing uniform, but they're all like kitschy and slightly related to the property that the characters represent.
Like related to that character. That's cool. Is it on all platforms?
I think it's on all platforms.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm playing it on the PlayStation 5.
Okay. And
It's
does
on
it have
Xbox, it's on PC? Yeah.
does it have online multiplayer, crossplay, that type of stuff too?
I believe so, and I believe you can even take your account and use a Gameloft account and move your progress across platforms.
Wow. This is cool, man.
I really like
We've been talking for a while. I mean, everyone has, right? About why is there not a larger scale, serious Mario Kart competitor? Do you think this could play in that space?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I actually think it's going to make a fortune eventually, but probably
Okay.
not right now in the pre-actual release time. Technically, this is early access because they're going to go free to play later on. But I think Gameloft now with Dreamlight Valley and the stuff they've done on mobile and this Disney Speedstorm just really have evidence that they understand the IP. And I don't know what's happening to Travis, but I hope he's okay.
I don't know. He's
You see
fighting
that?
an invasion or something.
There's
What
like
happens
a
when you leave your
spider
windows open?
that slewed down right into the frame. You could see
No,
it.
to
It was
us,
like a
it just looked like you
spider.
were fighting a ghost.
Yeah.
That was crazy. All right, I don't know where it went. I missed it.
No, I wanted to vouch for
Falling around
Speedstorm
somewhere.
because it's very flashy, it's very smooth, and the tracks are really unbelievable and
Yeah.
just really, really fun stuff. And they take Disney music, songs and things from the movies and Disney World and elsewise, and they make them, I don't know, kind of dubsteppy electronica.
Okay.
Mm.
That's cool, man. I don't know how I missed that, but that's definitely interesting. I love kart racers, especially if they support kind of proper online racing. They're just fun. So I'll definitely check this out. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's been really good for my therapy because I've been able to slowly get up to playing it decently. And I was joking. I was ranked multiplayer yesterday night, and I was winning a few. I was like,
Nice.
you don't even know. My hand doesn't even work.
He's playing ranked multiplayer. This is what I'm here for. Hoeg. I love it.
I was playing
Now
ranked
we just gotta
multiplayer,
get
and
Dan.
that's by character because all the characters have levels and things like that. And then you can also play what they call regulated multiplayer, which strips all of the RPG elements out, just lets you race around.
That's awesome, man. All right, definitely going to be downloading that. Cool. Do they have? Sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions because I'm interested. Do they have a firm release date yet for kind of the launch?
No. So GameLoft just says we're going to release it later. That's what
Okay.
they did with Dreamlight Valley and this Speedstorm. Speedstorm was going to come out last summer and got delayed till now. But it's really excellent. It's very high level racing.
Wow.
So first and foremost, the actual playing of the game is good.
Yeah. Wow. A kart racer and Dreamlight Valley. GameLoft is set to make apparently $9 billion.
I think it's really interesting that they're just kind of sitting out there in the wind. Like nobody's really talking about them right now. And I look at both those games and say that's going to work.
Yeah.
Wow.
They do sort of like the revert. Like GameLoft is a very talented studio, and they know what they're doing. Certainly in the mobilization space, but it's interesting on console. They kind of do the opposite of what you would expect from consoles, but it's very much the mobile way, which is charge people for it initially and then make it free later. And usually in consoles, you see the opposite, where it's free initially to get people hooked, or you put it on PS Plus or Game Pass or something, and then eventually people are forced to buy it. And they do the opposite, almost as like the way I think of it anyway, is like an early access, beta or game preview sort of thing, where you're paying for getting in early, and that gives you the opportunity to kind of get ahead of the game before they aggressively monetize it, or at least more aggressively. And you can see that in Disney Dreamlight Valley, which I gave a good review, but also commented on the fact that they could turn on a few levers here and really make this like irritating, you know what I mean? Like really make you have to pay to recharge your stamina meter and that sort of stuff. And I've not put any time into this, but from what I've seen of it, I was like, man, GameLoft, they're doing some stuff. They're a very talented studio. And
they probably have any psychologists on staff as game developers, but they're really good. Sure. I really like GameLoft.
Yeah, they're. I agree with that. Yeah, I think they've probably got child psychologists on staff. Gotta get them.
There's that fine line with monetization where it's like you have to walk that carefully. And the scary thing, I think, in today's environment, which we talk about, is that it's very easy to get addicted to a game like that, where you really enjoy it, you invest into it, and the monetization is agreeable to you personally, and then it can shift. Right. And then it's like all this time and money I've put into this, and now you're at a place where I find it egregious, and there's nothing you can do about it at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Looking at you, Sea of Thieves.
That is a very weird game to pick for that.
I don't know, man.
This thing is all the stuff
is
completely cosmetic. That's
what I mean. Well, I don't know. That's what he's talking. I'm just talking. I put a lot of money into cosmetics.
No, he's talking like something like Genshin Impact, where your incentive to play,
where your mechanics are actually,
your incentive to pay is like very high. Like Genshin Impact, if you don't pay for that game, you are a third-class citizen.
Like a pay to win.
That world.
No,
it's not necessarily pay to win, but it is pay to have fun. Basically, like you have a way more fun time if you pay for those games. So, and that's definitely true of like some of GameLoft's mobile games they have now. And so I suspect that when these are fully out, it will be like that. Like when Disney Dreamlight Valley gets paid, we might have to re-review it as like a free-to-play player, because that's essentially a different game.
Yeah, one of the guys that I follow, I mean, anyone who follows World of Tanks basically knows him. His name's Quickie Baby. He's one of the biggest tanks creators in the world, but he runs two accounts. He runs his normal account and he runs a free-to-play account and does content for both to show you the difference of playing World of Tanks paid versus free-to-play, and it's drastic. It is drastic.
Oh yeah. Actually, I recently wrote an article, which I think will be live on Monday, about the free-to-play version of Destiny 2.
I was just thinking that, Travis. I was like, I don't think it functions free-to-play at all. So I'll be interested.
I recently made a new account for Destiny 2 that owns no content and played it, and then I wrote a guide on like, here's what's free and here's what's paid, and it is a bizarre experience. It is a completely different game when you don't pay for it. So that was a very interesting experience. A game really well, and then you see the other side of it, and you're like, wow, there's people who play the game this way. That's crazy.
Garrett Lucius in the chat says GameLoft is really good at boiling you alive.
Frog?
A
Yeah, I mean,
lobster,
there's
right?
no question that they're using all the economics tricks and all the psychology tricks. But what I like about Gameloft is they put in the good game first. So the cart game is good, Dreamlight Valley is good, and then they go and
Yep.
see how much they can extract from their wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You very least have to respect the fact that it's still a good game, even if the model they built around it makes you a little uncomfortable. But I mean, plenty of games I like do the same thing. Like Destiny's probably got the most toxic payment model out there. I mean, it's not pay to win, but it's still they hit you like 9 different ways. They charge you.
Yeah,
way
we've
more.
talked about that. It is crazy. Like paid expansion, then paid pass, then paid cosmetics, and paid. It's crazy.
Transmog and
Yeah. Dan, talk to us about Burning Shores. If I recall in our DMs, because I've talked to a couple people who have beaten it now, and I think this won't surprise anyone that you said you took about twice as long as the other people I know to beat it. So, how'd it go? You did complete it, right?
Yeah, yes. I finished the story. I finished all the side quests. I mean, that's it, I guess. You know, I mean, for me though, like it's more like with the Forbidden West. I went back and I got all the legendaries. I upgraded every single legendary item between the weapons and the armor. That's what took me so long, because it's a lot of grinding. But it was at least enjoyable. You know, the combat's fun and everything. Burning Shores, it's really short, and my biggest problem with it is that it's end game content. Like you have to finish the main story to actually access the new DLC, and that sucks. Okay. And I don't like when studios do that. I'd rather it be like, you know, the worst thing is when it's like completely something different. Like Far Cry does it a lot, where it's like, okay, now we're going to go to do aliens, you know, where we're just going to use like half the map and change some stuff up. I hate that kind of DLC. I never buy that stuff. But I enjoy DLC more like where they add something to it and you can kind of choose to do it at any time, you know, or maybe even slightly level locked. You know, it's like, okay, you got to be up to level 30 maybe, and then you can go do this. But having to beat the main story to go play basically what amounts to, you can probably do it in like 4 hours if you just power through it on like an easier difficulty. You could probably do it in 2 or 3 hours. The story was great. I know a lot of people talk about the character building with Aloy. It's good. It just felt rushed because it was such a short experience. I feel like there was more there to explore with that character instead of how they did it. I don't care about, you know, the direction they went necessarily, but I think they could have done it a little bit better. It just felt really, really rushed.
I hear they're smooching.
Yeah, that's apparently the biggest thing that everybody took out of the game. And I'm just like, this is crazy. You know, I don't know why people get so upset about that. You know, it's stupid. It's just stupid.
Does it have dating sim mechanics?
It does not. You know, there's basically one choice.
Leave that for Midnight Suns.
Yeah, no, I'm still playing that.
See, Midnight Suns.
Yep.
Midnight Suns, not to change topics on us, but I see more and more people coming to appreciate that game. It feels like one of those games that's going to end up, quote, underselling against expectations, but going to end up like a cult classic where people continue to rave about it for years to come.
That game's almost impossible to sell, so I hope it doesn't end up under expectations, because they should have expected.
They already said that.
Not great.
The publisher said it didn't sell to their expectations. Yeah,
of course.
But we got to work on expectations rather than sales.
Yes,
I think that any game that has the Marvel brand attached to it is going to have sky high expectations. So I think that was a foregone conclusion that it was going to be underselling.
Yeah,
but also their marketing was atrocious. So
they were scared of the game. We talked about that last year. They didn't know what the hell they had.
Yeah.
Should have marketed it as a dating sim.
But
on Burning Shores, I mean, worth the $20 to you, Dan?
Yeah, for me it was. I think for most people it will be. So I went back and kind of looked and saw why they didn't put it on the PS4. It's the clouds. It's not like the cloud technology. It's clouds. Like they couldn't make the clouds work on the PS4. And here's the thing, that really only affects, I think, one mission, like where you're actually flying through a cloud or something. And it's not. I'm not sure they couldn't have pulled it off. But there's also a lot of battles that have a lot more machine enemies. So there's a lot more going on. That might have pushed the tech limit, maybe. I don't know.
I bet they
looks-
added that once they said no to the PS4 platform, which was probably the
true.
opposite.
Could have
Yeah.
opened up their space. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was the biggest. That was their hurdle was something about the clouds being up there. That's fine. I wish more people could experience it because it's kind of an important part of Aloy's story. Now we can. I think Rob said something about showing the vulnerability of Aloy. The problem I have with that is that it just felt like it should have been longer, right? Like you start Forbidden West and then it's like, oh, I'm Aloy. It's all my responsibility. And then by the end of it, she's kind of like, yeah, all right, maybe I can use some friends, and then, and then you go to this one where it's just like all of a sudden she just lets down all of her guards, and it doesn't feel right for me because I feel like she should still be a little bit more guarded than what they kind of made it out to be. But at the same time, the kissing thing, if you're really upset about that, just understand that the representation in video games is not a finite amount. It's not like everything has to fit in a box. It's not like if you have, this certain amount of representation here, that's not how it works. That's not how this whole thing works. You don't lose anything because somebody else gains something, right? There's not a box of like, okay, well, you're getting more representation with this community, so I'm going to lose mine. That's not how it works.
Am I missing something here? Does she kiss the woman?
Yeah, she kissed him.
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, that's
so. Of course, there had to be stories this week about Aloy.
That was all I saw.
Course.
That was the whole thing. Like you could sit here and dissect this DLC for what it is and find way more things that are not good. Like the grinding for the brim shine is their new currency, and it's just like, gosh, you need so much to like get everything all the way leveled up, and it's hard to find. I mean, it's but it's for $20. Yes, I would pay for it.
So you feel like, not to interrupt you, Dan, but you feel like, because Forbidden West is a big game. We've talked about it, right? You put more hours than anyone alive should put hours into that game. But even normal players would put dozens of hours into that game. And you're saying that in a 5-hour DLC, they kind of took a sharp turn that didn't feel natural to the evolution of Aloy.
Right.
Not separate of the sexual stuff, but just in general.
Yeah, for sure. That doesn't matter to me. That's it's. I think it was great. I mean, also, technically she's a clone of a, lesbian. So maybe there's something there you can look into. There's a lot of things you can kind of. Well, I mean, it's you have to find like a special record of Elizabeth Sobek talking to.
That's it.
I forgot that she was a clone.
Right, she was a clone. Right. So who cares anyway? I mean, it doesn't really matter. That's the biggest thing. Like if I'm reviewing a game, and it's not going to be that it just frustrates me.
No one in this community cares.
Nobody cares, right?
Well, it matters. I think the lesbians probably care.
I love lesbians.
Positively. That was an interesting comment.
Everybody knows
all of them. You love all as lesbians.
Well, I mean, I think as a person that really enjoyed Forbidden West, I don't think Aloy is a very good character. Period. So
see, that's more of the issue.
Doing anything else with her in Burning Shores is like, well, you haven't built up Aloy enough to me.
Yes,
that's the problem. We've talked about that before. She seemed really one note in Forbidden West. Even the 25 or so hours I played.
She's almost a Master Chief-esque, like empty vessel.
All right, okay.
no, but I mean, he is
easy.
Sorry,
easy.
Let's not bring Halo into this. No, I'm kidding. But no, I agree with you. I agree with you. By the way, Kay Asante, good to see you this morning, brother. He said I put 200 hours in. You're a noob compared to Dan. You're a noob compared to Dan, my friend.
That's half of what I did, though. That's really good.
Dan spent 200 hours just playing the little chess game.
No, I spent 5 minutes playing that chess game just to get the
achievement.
That's the worst part of that whole game, and that's Hoeg's probably favorite part, I'm sure.
It isn't a very good
Machine
game,
Strike is okay.
Machine Strike. Yeah. I was like, God, I got to win 3 matches. This sucks. So I went to I went and bought all the the best strike pieces, and then I went to the easiest guy that on the lowest level. I'm like, I'm gonna go play this guy with my giant whatever.
You grinded, yeah.
It worked out great. But yeah, I mean, for $20, totally worth it. go buy it. It's got a few more machines in it. Short story, but a pretty good sized map, and it's fun. It's fun. I mean, it's Aloy.
Okay.
It's Horizon. Combat's great. Play it not
I like-
on ultra hard.
I like the optics of the main character from that franchise, Aloy, coming to California and discovering her sexuality. That's really on brand. I'm glad to see we're still. I guess now we know why it's forbidden.
Yeah,
the West.
that's what it was.
Yeah,
Those are the burning shores.
Yeah,
He's already gone through the Forbidden West.
yeah,
that's right. Well, isn't it because it's Hollywood, right? Isn't it still the
I
Forbidden
mean, it's
West?
still West, but it's not the Forbidden
West.
West. It's like an area.
Oh,
Shores are
see, I
actually
see.
a metaphor.
The shores are not forbidden. I see. So San Francisco is the forbidden part.
Burning.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's not. Is it Amazon? I forget the. We have a Horizon TV show coming. So
that
it'd
could
be
be
interesting
something.
if they dive into that topic.
I did not
So-
know that. I did not know we had a TV show coming.
Mm.
This strikes
I
me
think
as
it's
a
Amazon.
terrible IP
HBO.
to make into a TV show. This strike, yeah. I do-
PlayStation's
like-
going all in on that. They got
I mean,
Horizon
well, of
coming.
course
God
they
of
are,
War.
yeah.
God of War's
Have you
coming.
seen Sony Pictures? They have nothing else going for them. So I
If only
think
they told decent stories with these things, they could make them into good movies and shows.
yeah, that's my point, Hoeg, is like, to me, Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon series is like the most video game ever. Like its setting is like very clearly made so that you can fight giant mechanical rope, dinosaurs, and the character is kind of a nothing burger, but that's okay because you're just kind of having fun in an open world, and everything about it is like, this should be a video game, and of course they're going to make it into a show, and I'm like, yikes. That's my.
I mean, I think
love
we're
the
gonna
people-
we're gonna reap the
There's so
whirlwind from the
many-
Mario movie.
There's so many funny comments right now. Dan
There are,
Joe
yeah.
Munger says Dan is playing games that aren't Hitman. Incredible. By the way,
before we started.
Real Radic, thank you for the clarification. So Horizon is coming. That's on Netflix. God of War is coming. That's on Amazon. Twisted Metal is coming. That's on Peacock. And then Ghost of Tsushima and Gran Turismo are both movies.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I don't know about
they're
Gran
going all out.
Turismo. That's the one.
Well, that one's weird to me, especially, the car stuff, because there's no characters. You're just, what are you just going to make a racing movie and then call it Gran Turismo? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's what you're going to do.
Hey, I'll vouch for the
So-
Need for Speed movie. I mean, that was just a movie about cars, and it
Yeah.
had
Very good.
Batman in a radio studio. But
That's true.
yeah.
It is better than Fast and Furious, but I mean, still, it's rough.
He's just picking fights, Travis. I don't know what
I
to
know.
tell you.
It's just, I don't even, it doesn't bother me. He hasn't seen the movies. That's so, it's like, well,
I've
he
seen
doesn't know
three
what
of
he's
them. I've seen three of them.
You've seen
I've had
the
enough.
3 that came out in 2001 or whatever. It's like, that's a long time ago, bro.
By the way, this is completely random. My wife was watching Men in Black yesterday, and I was like, damn, that movie's got to be like 15, 20 years old now. That movie came out in 1997.
Jesus.
I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, 26 years old, man. Holy crap.
You
What?
can't listen to Ains when it comes to cars. This guy is always green
What?
shifting and not double clutching.
Well played, sir.
He believes in Porsche power. That's all I know about it.
All right. Shout out to Brentwood Chic. It's Chic, Travis, not Chick. Chic. Brentwood Chic for the gifting the channel memberships on both channels. Always very generous. Thank you very much. And Midnight Drury with the gifted membership over on SG as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll get to these super chats here in a minute. Any other games before we get to main topics, which include Dead Island 2 reviews? Any other games you guys want to call out that you've been playing?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I've also been playing Advanced Wars 1 and 2, which I waited for a year.
Yeah. Did
That
it
was
turn out good?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
good.
it's a very simple type of game. It's based on a game I used to play on the TurboGrafx called Military Madness, which was actually, I think, called
Ooh,
Guitarist
good.
in Japan.
Yeah, good call out.
So those games are the same type of game, but it took a year because Nintendo delayed it indefinitely last March, I think.
Yes. Yeah, they announced that a long time ago.
Yeah, I picked up that one. I beat a game, but I can't remember which one I beat. I beat some games this week. I'm catching up. I'm actually in between reviews right now. So I've been playing like Resident Evil, remake, and some of the stuff I just didn't have time for. Other stuff, and also Advanced Wars is on my list, but because of my gaming ADHD, I'm sort of just jumping around between games and still lots of stuff. My backlog is pretty long. Dude, Cyberpunk is still on my backlog. I still haven't finished that game. I feel like I've been playing that game for like a year and a half.
Well, I'm also playing
Cyberpunk-
Dead Island 2, but I was told I'm not allowed to talk about that yet. So
Not yet.
Yeah. That's on the
Cyberpunk is your version of Hoeg's Xenoblade Chronicles. It's just going to be there forever.
I don't
in
know
fairness,
about
I
that.
had set aside some time to play Xenoblade Chronicles, and it didn't work out for me.
Oh, that was the stroke, wasn't it?
Yes, that was that week.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's
See?
never happened.
Seasoned Gaming
fates
reports
conspired.
Xenoblade Chronicles can give you a stroke. Don't
Yeah.
play it.
Yeah.
That'll be the next video he
Well,
does.
maybe do play it.
I did play a few more matches. I know I mentioned this last week. I did play a few more matches of Battlefield 2042, and I can report that it is actually fun. I'm shocked. They've done a lot of improvements to that game. It plays really smooth now, and I was having a good time. So I'm actually going to be playing
And
that.
it only costs them their reputation.
Pretty much, and a year and a half of extra dev and setting up a new studio to fix it, and an awful
Is it a
lot.
new studio that fixed the game?
No, to fix the franchise, they set up Marcus Lato, who was one of the Halo originators, has a new studio in Washington, I believe, that EA has set up to build the future of Battlefield single player, like story. And then remember, they put Vince Zampella now as overseer of Battlefield IP. So they're reinvesting to try and reinvent it. It's like you shouldn't have had to reinvent it in the first place. You had an amazing IP that you just crushed. Yeah. Anyway, let's catch up on some super chats. Dan, rapid fire at you here. Googleman right out of the gate before the show began, as always, his random comment.
Yeah, so I've been playing Breachers VR. There's an option to mute all voice chat, and the range is on the left side of the main menu. You're welcome.
Okay. I don't know what Breachers VR is.
No.
Travis, you know what that is?
I do. I've not played it, but I believe I own it. That's like the story of my life. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Googleman. Always appreciate the support, man. Marianne Williams with two $20 super chats.
Yeah. First one, good morning. Hope you all are having a great Sunday.
Yes.
Good so far.
Yeah.
Yes. Always very generous, Marianne. She gives $20, usually a super sticker. She's switching it up with some actual words this week to both sides of the house, SG and HoegLaw. Super appreciated.
And just wanted to say good morning and pass it on.
Open smile mouth. Open mouth smile. That
Open
one.
smile mouth.
A blue. Yeah, that's right. A blue heart. I think that's
a Smurf heart.
Thing. Smurf heart. Wait, does that mean humans are red? Anyway, and then 100 waves. She waved at us 100 times.
Perfect. Love it. Marianne, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Detective Seeds in the house.
Yeah, with the $9.99 super chat, just dropping in to say hello. Thank you, Detective Seeds.
Yeah, good morning, brother. He's a super nice guy, does content reviews and stuff on his channel as well. Check him out if you haven't. Shoosh with the €5.
Yeah. With ever-growing pervasiveness of subscription services, I hope in the future Xbox Game Pass will also include an option to finance my mortgage.
Honestly,
I'm not so sure it won't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be that surprised because have you
Partnered
seen
with
the
Quicken?
Yeah, have you seen the benefits page for Game Pass? They got some weird stuff on there. It'd be like, a year off of AAA and stuff like that. And you're like, what? Why is this in my subscription? It's very bizarre stuff in there. Wouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah. Shoosh, thank you very much. I forget what currency this is. Someone can remind me because I don't know.
Those
We-
are
we- A tornado.
Shoostras.
Someone in the chat tell us because we don't know. We've had this
made that
before.
up.
And someone told us, and I forget. So sorry about that. But anyway,
Yes,
super
glad
chat
to-
from Siddharth.
My fake currency name was pretty good, though. I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Glad to have Hope back. Hope you are doing well.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Getting there.
I'm going to keep an eye on chat while we go through the rest of these. Giselle.
Say, $5. I just want Dan to say I love lesbians again. I do. I have a shirt I think I got it from
What?
yeah, like GMM did it. Like Good Mythical Morning. It says everybody knows I love lesbians. I got it somewhere. I just never wore it.
It's right next to his female body inspector shirt.
Yeah. Yes.
It's an actual
That's
shirt.
100% I love lesbians is the most, hetero Midwest man thing to say I've ever,
Okay, leave the Midwest out of it.
Yeah,
All right.
Come on. It is.
You always bring to
It's
these
like-
regional attacks. I don't know what.
Yeah. The only thing he's missing when saying that statement is if he was holding like a pair of like bowling shoes in the other hand or something like that. It's the
We don't know what
it's
Dan's
just what I
got in his
imagine.
hand.
The 6-pack of beer.
I
Bud
agree.
Light. I don't know.
But not Bud Light.
Yeah.
Not Bud Light. Yeah. He shoots his Bud Light. I forgot about that.
That's what I do.
Oh my God, Giselle, thank you. And
Yeah.
Shoes back with another 5 years.
Yeah, damn, he like, I don't care about Aloy kissing a girl. I've kissed women before too.
Show the receipt.
I have. That is also a true statement.
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Fact check.
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
Oh, that's great. Thank you guys. Appreciate the super chats. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump over to Dead Island 2, a game that Travis and I both reviewed. Our reviews are out, up. We landed on very similar kind of perspectives by the end of it. And wrong frame. Sorry.
Oh, get back in your frame. Get back in the picture.
So we both landed and you said 7, I said 7.5, pretty much very similar. We wrote relatively similar things as well. I think this game, and Hoeg, I know you bought it. Hoeg read both of our reviews.
I
And then
read both reviews and said I'm buying this game.
he bought
because
it.
there's a certain quality that you both have in your writing on this game that is like, well, it's kind of great and kind of not. And I always like that kind of review because it's like, I need to know myself. So
Okay.
I bought it. And I will say this, and I figure this is probably one of the things you were going to want to talk about, Ains, is that I think it shows very strong from the start.
It
So
does.
I feel very warmly towards Dead Island 2 right now from what I have played, which is a half dozen hours.
Yeah,
It
it
makes
does.
a great first impression, which I believe was my opening line. Hoeg was like, it makes a
I
great
think your
first
opening line is about a socialite in Orange County.
Yeah, but making a good first impression. It's a metaphor, Hoeg. I don't know if you know. Actually, a simile.
I mean, you wrote it, but your metaphor was about it being vapid and empty.
Yeah. Despite
Yeah.
its good first impression.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
So it does. It starts. By the way, Siddharth, thank you. He said it is Indian rupees. So the
Nice.
tornado is an R. That's what we're gonna remember for the future. Thank you, Siddharth. Appreciate it. It does make a good first impression. And I'll start with the funniest thing about this game, because we had our debate about Redfall and 30 FPS and games launching unoptimized or unpolished and everything. And here comes this game that's been in development hell, quite literally, for several years. It's gone through 4 developers since the start of its announcement, and it launches across PC and console, very well polished. It's very pretty. It runs very smooth, and I had no issues whatsoever. I reviewed it on PC. I'm now playing it on Xbox, and it's beautiful. It's very well polished. It has UI options.
It feels great.
Yeah, super smooth. And I'm like, bravo to that team, because as we've seen from even much bigger AAA teams, they can't seem to get it right sometimes. So good on them.
Well, and the unhinged jaws and the things they're doing with like the physics on the zombie bodies is like, yeah, if you're gonna make a zombie game, that's probably what you should be doing right now.
The body
It's incredible.
system. What do they call it?
The flesh.
Flesh system.
Yeah.
God, I
it's,
wish flesh were an acronym.
It is.
It is. It's like
It is an acronym. I have it in my review. Okay, if you want to read the real review.
I'm sure that's the thing that players care about is the under the hood flesh system.
You should.
Well, I mean, what really works for me about that is it gives this kind of Sam Raimi vibe. It's that Doctor Strange zombie monster guy, and it's all kind of half hilarious while you're fighting these things all the time.
It is, yeah. So you want to know what it stands for, which is hilarious because obviously they made this up, and just to be ridiculous, it stands for Fully Locational Evisceration System for Humanoids.
That's about right.
Yeah. So Game Informer had they had like one of the kind of like IGN first. They had their month access to Dead Island 2 several months ago, and they did a really good video where they spoke with 2 of the core devs at Dam Buster about creating the flesh system. And it's really, really interesting to watch. I went back and watched it. It's like 20 minutes long. But basically what they did is every zombie in the game is layered in terms of layers of flesh, and then it has a structural bone under that, and they can all kind of piece together independently, and obviously responds to different impacts and weapon types and stuff. And it's, in my opinion, it's the best we've ever seen. Good call out on Sam Raimi around kind of just this goofy zombie like destruction system. And I call out my review that it's one of the coolest aspects of the game, and I really do hope that it doesn't get lost in gaming history. I hope that they use that system either in their next game or they share the tech with other developers, because it's amazing. It really is.
Well, and it works well for zombies because you really are like hacking parts of them off, and where you hit is where the flesh comes off, and that's good for like rotten bodies. I don't know that it would work as well if you considered that to be a live human in these circumstances, but I think it could be modified for what you want to do with it. And I think we're so used to, when we're playing video games, kind of having a metaphorical swing of the bat or whatever it is that you're using, and like, yes, they get hit, and that's what you're doing playing the game. And then this is, oh yeah, that whole jaw comes off if you hit it in the right way and things like that, and it's just a different experience. And you know, Travis has talked up in his article the hilariousness of the comedy writing. I don't know if I'm there yet, but it is not offensive to me so far. It's not this kind of really stupid, dumb thing that pretends to be humor. Travis and I had not a fight exactly, but a discussion certainly of like High on Life, which really doesn't work for me at all, that Travis really enjoyed. And I'm having a lot more fun with what I would consider a little bit more, it's not subtlety exactly, but directed satire of things within Dead Island 2 so far. I mean, one of the very first things you do is you go through a multi-channel network house of Twitch streamers. And it's just really well done with environmental storytelling. And you return to that house and it's worse than when you left it, and all these various things. And I really enjoyed that so far in level 1.
Yeah, that's very early.
That's very early, yeah.
But no, I'm the same way. It's got it kind of doesn't take itself seriously, which it shouldn't, right? Ever since its debut, which is fun. And the combat system or the flesh system, I guess, is absolutely incredible. And I think that it does a really good job, which I know Travis called out well around. It does the 10 regions of kind of Los Angeles and like Venice Beach and certain areas. And I think it does a really good job in terms of representation of those areas, tongue in cheek, right? Of like the Hollywood, you go to movie studios eventually, and you know, you go through a movie set and Ocean Drive and all these things. And I think with the way the writing is combined with how they did some of the zombies representing certain areas, I think it's really good tongue in cheek, kind of poking fun at LA and that kind of culture. I think it did.
That's what I remember about Dead Island. That's what set it out, was like this was a zombie apocalypse on vacation.
Yes.
Dead Island and LA, Southern California in general, has that vibe already. So I think that's really working
vacation
for
vibe of LA. That's funny. For me, the satire is really good because, you know, it pokes fun at LA, and even people who live in LA would agree with some of the stuff it makes fun of. About it, which is great. It's kind of but just the fact that nobody takes the apocalypse seriously, I think, is like the defining characteristic of that game. Admittedly, and I wanted to call this out in my review, but couldn't find a natural way to do it. The name now makes no sense because it's not an island. But,
that's the first thing that bothered me. But with all the earthquakes happening in the first act, I assume they were just going to carve LA off of California at some point.
No, they just call it LA and
it LA, and it's an island.
It is very funny because they put that title card up as you've got like a long shot of walking into LA, and I'm like, that's not an island at all.
Yeah, it's really not. It's a metaphorical island in that it's quarantined, but yeah, the name has lost all meaning in terms of it being an island. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Some people are saying, you know, is Travis in Dead Island 2? I wish. I'm in NorCal, my friend. I'm very much a NorCal person, and if you know about California's NorCal, SoCal
they
division.
hate each other.
We don't hate each other, but we definitely have very, very different personalities.
My wife is from Los Angeles. I'm going to say they hate each other.
Okay, well, I don't hate anybody in SoCal. Well, that's not true. I don't hate most people in SoCal. Yeah, we're all Californians. We're on the same team. Yeah, the problem I have with the game, if we can get into why it's not an 8 or
Go
a
ahead,
9,
because I have some as well. Yeah,
is for me, it's that the game, though it hits in terms of its performance and its tone, I think is really cool. Obviously, the flesh system is funny to have there. It doesn't really do much of anything that I haven't seen in like a dozen other zombie games, and it specifically doesn't really do anything better than some really successful zombie games. Like I saw somebody in the comments saying that they prefer Dead Island 2 to Dying Light 2. That one's hard for me. I would say it performs a lot better than, although it is actually a pretty buggy game, Dead Island 2 is, but it probably performs better than Dying Light 2, which had a lot of bugs at launch. But in terms of like momentum and speed and moving about the world, like that goes to Dying Light. In terms of characters and story, that goes to Dying Light. In terms of RPG systems, the fact that Dying Light 2 is actually open world, that goes to Dying Light 2. So there's not really a whole lot that you could point to about Dead Island 2 that you go, well, that's, you know, super unique and a reason to play this game. Like it's sort of one of those games you could miss and you wouldn't be missing that much. And that's kind of that to me, that's the original sin with this game, is they just didn't give me any reason to say, you know, Dead Island 2 is a must play or to really sink my teeth into. You know, I had fun playing it, but I never got to any point where I was like, well, that's new. That's interesting in some meaningful way. And that extends far beyond its premise and the fact that it's just another, you know, open world zombie game. You know, its RPG system is like pretty light.
it is
Pretty, you know, its crafting system. I feel like I've played this exact game in terms of the crafting system like 50 times. And also the weapons that you can craft don't really have a whole lot of character to them. They're, you know, they get fairly goofy in terms of like, oh, it's a katana that has like a flamethrower attached to it or a blowtorch or whatever, and it does fire damage. But effectively, it's just you're swinging a katana that has a status effect, and it doesn't get to the levels of goofiness of like a Dead Rising game, you know, where you're making
Sure.
like crazy. And I feel like it would have been really easy for them to go in that direction because of the tone of the game. It totally matches that sort of thing. It wouldn't be too beyond the pale for Dead Island, but they seem to be afraid to go in that direction, and they keep the weapons you can craft and kind of the tools of destruction fairly vanilla for the most part, which is I was really surprised by. So yeah, it just, to me, it does nothing super offensively wrong. It's more about what it's lacking in terms of its uniqueness and doing something especially right that made it kind of just a good but not great game to me, which is why I gave it a 7.
Yeah, I think that,
about that when you say the weapons is that I do think that graphically they're represented very well. You had a blowtorch to a golf club, and that looks different and interesting when you do it as you hold it in your hands. And I guess it's a little surprising to me that it doesn't advance into really weird stuff, which is what I would expect going forward into the game.
That's what I thought too. Yeah. And I thought, oh, when I get mods, I'm gonna be able to do crazy stuff. But it's like, no matter how crazy you equip the mods, it changes the visual look, but it still feels like you're just swinging a regular sword and then it applies status.
That makes sense.
That's really,
it's the same stuff. You can, like, as you get the higher level weapons, you can add more mods to it, but it's really like Travis said, it's status effect bonuses, basically combat bonuses. Yeah, I would agree almost wholeheartedly. As I said with Travis, it's a very fun game to play. It's well optimized. The flesh system's great. Where I started to get let down, there's 10 regions that you go to eventually, and each of them is kind of like its own little hub. The first couple that you go through, where you are now, Hoeg, and I think the next one or two are pretty small. They do get bigger later on, like when you get to like Venice Beach. But they never get creative with it. The level kind of exploration is extremely limited. There's clear pathing to where you're supposed to go. There's no, like, you know, Dying Light. I told Travis in DMs as we were reviewing this, Dying Light 2, I have my own problems with. Like, the game just wasn't fun to me. It just bored me as I tried to play it, despite some of the really cool kind of as Travis noted, like the parkour elements, the world design, those types of things are awesome. And what I have said multiple times now is give me Dead Island 2, but in Dying Light 2's world. Because the problem with with Dead Island 2, sorry, is it never evolves. So your quest system, you will go and unlock something, go through a door, plug in something, and then fight a horde, and you're going to do that through the whole game. It never evolves. The extent of the secrets you can find is really buying a fuse from a vendor, putting a fuse in a door, opening it, and getting a weapon. And that is really the extent of it. There's no player, what I said, I think in my review, is there's no true player agency to just go and explore and do anything kind of on your own. It's like you're going to be doing the quests, which are repetitive, and fighting zombies. And they do the fighting zombies really well. They do the goofy writing very well, but it just doesn't go anywhere creatively, and that's a shame. And I don't know if that is because this is not a big AAA studio, right? So I don't know if they simply didn't have the resources to make a huge world for a player to explore, because that's very labor intensive and also hardware intensive, right? It's much harder to do. And I don't know if they just, had to narrow scope due to time, what have you. But anyway, that was my biggest complaint with it. But I think as there is something here, because I finished the game on PC, reviewed it. I had the special edition come for Xbox, and I'm playing it again. It's just fun to just go through and bash zombies in different ways and use the physics system to get creative with it, which is the most fun part. But if you're expecting the game to evolve as you get further into it, like with its quests and stuff, you're going to be disappointed.
I figured that was what you guys would tell me, which is that strong first impression kind of outstays its welcome, doesn't do much after that, would be my guess. But I personally like being in the Dead Island world more than the I keep wanting to say
Dying Light.
Yeah, Dying Light. There we go. Got all these variations of death. It's like Dead Rising. No, that's not right. Yes, Dying Light. Because Dying Light 2 is, in this dying European city for hours and hours and hours. And it's just a darker experience in terms of tone and being there. And that's fine. That's an apocalypse. It's a zombie show or a zombie movie. But this one is that kind of goofy zombies on vacation. And I am enjoying that more, just being in there and playing that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that there's 6 protagonists you can pick from, and it's the same intro no matter who you pick, but they do have their own mannerisms, their own quips, their own personalities, which is kind of cool. So I think Travis and I both use Jacob kind of primarily in our review.
There you go.
Jacob makes the game like 80% more funny if you play as him.
He's pretty funny.
I played as all the characters, and like you play as Amy, and she's like kind of like an angry edgelordian. Is that a descriptor? And
we've been playing Carla and Ryan in my house, and Carla is Latina, and what's interesting is that you have various folks that she's trying to use that on in the first chapter. Like she'll speak in Spanish and roll all her R's and try to convince them of something, and like none of it works, right? Because the plot is the plot, but it's an interesting.
They also ignore a lot of the stuff your character says because the dialogue doesn't change from character to character. So you'll say like something pretty unique with one character, and you'll be like, "Oh, I wonder how they'll respond to that," and they just say the same line regardless. It's like, what? Come on, they should have recorded.
I was enjoying the NPCs using "they" for everybody because they're like, we have no idea who you are.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I think one, it's a miracle that this game is here and it's actually good. First of all,
yes.
So I got to give credit to Dan Buster. I called that out in my review and just said, it's. I also appreciate that Deep Silver as a publisher never gave up on this. Which, if you think from a publisher perspective, you spend several years and 3 developer changing hands. Eventually, you would just go, okay, this is a waste of our damn time and move on. But they managed to support, fund, and produce a fun, good game. And it seems like most of the people that are playing it anecdotally are enjoying it. So I think credit to them. And, I hope that it's a success for Dan Buster and Deep Silver. And I hope that we see more of it. If we get a theoretical Dead Island 3, which takes what they've built here foundationally and expands upon it, right, in some key areas we've discussed, I think you're going to have a real winner, really. So there. I was waiting for one of you to say something.
No, I didn't have anything to add to that. I've enjoyed my time, but I'm earlier than any of you. So
yeah. Yeah, let us know. Next week maybe we'll touch on how if you've put more time into it and what you continue to think. Dan, are you plan on playing this at all?
Absolutely not. I wasn't a fan of the first ones. I'm not like if it's not State of Decay, basically, I don't really. I try
to be clear, Dan, it's not scary.
No. I don't think it is. I mean, from what I've seen,
it's not at all.
No, I'm not a huge fan of that series anyway. So it just wasn't something that I was like, I have to play this. And then know, with the DLC coming out for Horizon, and then next week is Star Wars. So that's gonna be it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to. I mean, maybe when this game goes on sale for $20, that's where it seems like it's at for me right now. But maybe.
By the way, just a quick shout out. We are giving away at SG a deluxe edition of the game for PC. So it's on our Twitter profile. Super simple to enter. We're going to pick the winner later today. So if you want to play Dead Island, you have a PC that can run it, check out, Seasoned Gaming Twitter, and you can enter, and we'll pick that winner later. So cool. Anything else you want to say on Dead Island 2, Travis? You spoke your mind?
Yeah, I spoke my mind. You can read a whole bunch of words about how I feel about it, but yeah, I will not be replaying that game. I think I had my fill. So
okay,
it was a good time though.
I am enjoying that, because obviously I just new PC, so I was running it at uncapped frame rate and top everything on PC. But going to Series X, it's not a drop off. It's super smooth. It's gorgeous. Yeah, really good.
What do you got in your PC? Let's talk. What do you got? What do you want?
I didn't sign up for this.
I got my.
I'm not doing that.
I got my 4090 in a couple days ago, so I'm building a new rig right now. So
it's good.
Getting all PC'd up once more.
Nice.
I have a work laptop.
What's that? What's that, Hoeg?
I have a work laptop for drafting legal documents.
Yeah, you strike me as a console person.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but yeah.
Me too, man.
That's okay.
I am too.
The internet will know.
I do like playing a game and then just playing it. I do.
Yeah, no. I will be the first person to be like, anybody who says PC Master Race, I'll be like, I got some questions about that statement, because my experience with playing PC games has been anything but master feeling. I feel like a serf when I work on my PC and try to get things to work correctly on it. So yeah, horrifying.
Oh man. So I wanted to pose this to Travis, because I was having a discussion with a few people about Minecraft Legends review, and what?
That's one of the games I'm playing. I forgot to mention it, and currently playing.
There you go. So just on the review process, and Hoeg, Dan, obviously feel free to chime in here. So I was having a discussion because our Minecraft Legends review, our reviewer Eric, Game Positive, who everyone I think follows us knows, he played the PvP with Mojang. And they invited people to do that, right? Because the PvP is a core aspect of Minecraft Legends, right? It has its campaign, but they advertised a bunch of PvP features. So the question I want to pose to you, because I got into this theoretical debate, with
theoretical debate.
Yeah, I was going to say this debate on Discord is we noticed that, I'm not going to name names, but a few what I would call very large reviewers, both YouTube and sites, not IGN, not you guys, wrote their review and basically just skipped over PvP. They didn't really touch on it, or even you could tell
the campaign.
You could tell that they didn't really engage with the PvP. And our reviewer said, look, I made it a point to spend hours doing this because it's a core feature of the game, and I feel that we should talk about it, right? Like, it should be part of the review. So I said, yeah, it's kind of an interesting conversation in a way. I kind of side with Eric in the fact of, because they advertised this as a PvP game, and they even had a showcase about the PvP elements of the game. Yes, you should be talking about that in your review. But I'm curious to where you think, if it's a core feature aspect of the game, do you feel the responsibility as a reviewer to at least engage with it and comment on it?
Absolutely. Maybe not comment on it. Like, one of the things for Dead Island 2 was they really, really wanted me to try their Amazon Alexa integration.
Yeah.
What a little card that comes up. And I'm like, what?
Yep.
You know.
I logged into they gave me a code for PC and PlayStation. I logged in on PC and I gave it the old college try. I was playing it, and then I thought to myself, well, I'm definitely not going to talk about that in my review because that was completely irrelevant to how I felt about the game. So I certainly.
But I wouldn't call that a core feature of Dead Island 2, right? Like,
they would. I mean, they were, dude. They were insistent that I try this feature. I mean, they were really wanting me to do it. Yeah, I would agree with that. But yes, the answer is you should absolutely play everything that the game offers as much as you possibly can within the time you have, and you should talk about anything that you think people will care about or that factors into the conclusion that you came to. At IGN, we have policies around this. You have to play the campaign to its conclusion, but also if the game features any multiplayer modes, you have to put in at least 15 hours into those. And I would say, any reviewer who is serious about the job that they're doing in writing a review would subject themselves to that. Look, if I had to play 25 hours of Crossfire X, you can play 10 or so hours of Minecraft PvP. That's all I have to say.
What's funny about that as a core feature to me is I've turned that app on now a number of times. I didn't even realize it had PvP. So
Minecraft
I'm
Legends?
paying attention. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's one of the 3 boxes I think on the main menu. One's like marketplace.
That's how quickly I'm just hitting campaign or
campaign.
Yeah,
Or whatever. Yeah, that's probably a consumer Hoeg. He knows what he likes thing. But if you're a reviewer, I think reviewing requires curiosity of you. That's kind of part of the job, even if it's not your normal thing. So. Yeah, that is very bizarre that they didn't play it. It is sometimes a little tricky with early access. You try to play multiplayer and then you don't get any matches because there's no people in the lobbies. But if that were the case, what I would do at IGN, what I would be compelled to do because of the policies we have in place, is hold the review until the game comes out, play 15 hours of the multiplayer, and then post it. So
for what it's worth, that sounds like the right answer to me. If it's a major feature of the game, I think it needs to be at least checked out.
Yeah, 100%.
Or split into different reviews. Right? I mean, I think IGN did this, Travis. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Call of Duty had like a campaign review and like a full package review or something like that.
We've started to do that more and more, especially as some of the multiplayers have split off from the main games, like with Halo. They're essentially 2 separate games. They're 2 separate apps, and so. Actually, they aren't separate apps anymore. I'm thinking of Crackdown. They're
Call of Duty.
Halo Infinite is one app, but it's 2 separate
it's all
games.
one. It's all one.
But it is 2 separate games in effect, and so since
anytime, because Call of Duty is the same way because Warzone is free to play, but multiplayer's not. So they're all in the same UI and menu, but if you're playing Warzone for free, it'll literally say you have to buy Modern Warfare 2 to play it. Same way with Halo. If you want to play the campaign, you have to be Game Pass or buy it. Yeah. But yeah, I just found it interesting because we kind of got a good laugh out of it because, like I said, I'm not naming names, but a very, at least 2 very popular reviewers, like clearly didn't try or really play or cover the PvP aspect. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of lacking in my opinion, but anyway,
did they point that out when they
they in the one they spoke about PvP for 45 seconds or so, and you could tell they didn't really, you know what I mean? You can just tell from listening to them they didn't really experience it. They just tried to comment on it to make it sound like they did, and I think that's even more disingenuous, right? Like to Hoeg's point, it's very possible to just say, here's my Minecraft Legends campaign review and call that out specifically, right? Rather than say I'm reviewing the whole package of a game and not playing a big part of it. So, yeah.
I would also
Lucy says name them. I'm not naming them.
I would also just say that don't be too quick to assume that a reviewer didn't play the thing just based on what you think. I mean, there's some people who are very open about it and say things like, I played on the easiest difficulty, or I didn't complete the campaign and stuff like that. And whenever they do, I just go, well, that's just like you're admitting that you're bad at your job or that you don't, you do it half-assed. That's my response when they do that. But I think some people look at what somebody talked about in a review and assume they draw conclusions that maybe they shouldn't about what that person did or didn't play. And I would just say that until they explicitly offer that up, you can obviously ask them questions about that and say, hey, you didn't talk about multiplayer. Why? But, sometimes people don't talk about certain things because it didn't really change their opinion. And like the reason I didn't talk about Amazon Alexa integration is because it didn't matter an iota to me. And I think that sometimes when people don't talk about stuff, it is not out of ignorance. It is a decision that they made in their coverage, and that's totally fine.
Fair enough. In fact, I was just looking. I think I did mention the Alexa thing, and I said that's available if it's for some reason. I think I said for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty funny the stuff you can do. You can, you basically use Alexa to automate irritating tasks in the game, which I thought was cool. But yeah, it's one of those features that just kind of makes me roll my eyes.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know what it took development wise to implement that, right? I don't have a clue, but I look at something like that, I'm like, why wouldn't you have spent the time expanding upon one of the core features like the weapon customization or something rather than integrating Alexa?
It was probably developed by the third studio that worked on Dying Light 2, in years 6 through 9 or something like that.
True.
So I have no idea where that came from, but it is pretty funny.
All right, let's catch up on a couple super chats. Dan, you're on deck, sir.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. Don Leinert with the $5 super chat. Hello, Don. Hi, friends. Not really anything to say today, just showing support. That's it. Oh, and I guess make Bitcast a 3-hour podcast since I have the space.
Thank you, Don. Good to hear from you. Yes, we do get comments, several, pretty often with make Bitcast a 3-hour podcast as a request. Yes, so we do. I have responded to a lot of them saying that's a struggle. That's not where we play, but I mean, hell, we tend to go 2.5 hours regularly now anyway, so we're most of the way there. Thank you, Don. Good to hear from you. Shoosh is going crazy today.
Yeah, he just loves me. Not many people know this, but Dan T-shirt, I love lesbian shirt. Can I wait? Hold on. Can also be seen in the Smithsonian Museum, right where Bill Cosby's exhibition used to be. I mean, what in the hell? It's not even my shirt. It's not like I made it up. Like, you guys know who Rhett and Link are, right? Like, I mean, it's YouTube. They have the shirt.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Get out of here. Get out of here. You know, Good Mythical Morning. They're like one of the biggest YouTubers in history.
I
don't care about YouTubers, Dan.
Yeah, I don't know anybody.
Anybody? Nobody on this panel.
He says on his YouTube podcast.
Yeah. Lord.
Yeah. It's so funny. I make content I would never engage with. Like the idea of watching a show where people.
No, Dan's referring to like the big YouTubers with millions of subs and stuff.
I don't know any of them. Literally.
Me neither. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you guys? My God. I just heard of them. I've heard of them.
Different priorities, man.
You guys know who Mr. Beast is? You ever heard of Mr. Beast?
I have heard of Mr. Beast.
Okay, there you go. Well, at least you guys aren't,
Is he the guy who made everyone have eyeballs? Was that the one?
Yeah.
Okay,
Charity.
Cool.
Have eyeballs. Shoosh, thank you.
Did Bill Cosby really have a Smithsonian exhibition? Because that's really, like, what do we have? Like a sweatshirt or like a sweater? Like the sweater vest?
What's going on?
He's making the Bill Cosby joke for other reasons, Dan, not from the Cosby Show. He's making the joke for other reasons.
I've never, ever,
we're moving on.
Bill Cosby anybody. So, I mean, that's crazy. I love lesbians. Who cares? Everybody does. I mean, this is...
All right, we're packing it up, boys.
Yeah, I'm
Go ahead and call it
Dan,
a
day. Not going to go 3 hours.
Put the shovel down and let me move on, okay?
I'm good. I feel like I'm being
What is he doing to these lesbians? Why does he have a shovel?
With how long it took to develop Pulp Boy with $11 Canadian, by the way. I'm glad my faith was rewarded with Dead Island 2. It's a lot less intimidating than Dying Light 2. It has rewarding combat, quirky characters, and it looks great.
All true. Yeah, all true.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was super excited for Dying Light 2. We've joked before, Travis, about there being like a 2019 E3. They went crazy with Dying Light 2. It won all sorts of rewards. It took 2.5 more years to come out.
Is that the running trailer?
It was the one where, he's
Dying Light
after
2.
the van.
Oh, Dying Light 2.
Yep.
Yeah, Dying Light 2 is the one where he's running after the van, and it was a demo, and it was about how your decision would change the city, which is importantly a feature that never made it into the game. And it was the main thing that they talked about at E3, multiple E3s in a row. And they gave out statues of the main character who, by the time the game came out, the main character was a completely different. I mean, he was still the same guy, but his entire vibe and personhood was completely different. And it's very interesting when you get a peek behind the curtain at game development, because you see how much things go wrong or change over time, and that was a really big one. I think they showcased that game 3 different times at E3, if I'm not mistaken, and every single time it looked like a completely different game.
Yeah, it was
very weird.
Wild.
One was like they advertised it. Remember the Saints? I don't know if you saw it this year. I think this was the year before 2019, whatever year they showed it before that. And it was like a Middle Ages return. Do you remember this? It was like post Dying Light 1, the Middle Ages have returned, like the Dark Ages, basically, of humanity has fallen back into the Dark Ages, and then you're going to decide which path they take to coming out of it as a civilization. And it was like,
it's still in the intro video.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. And then that is like not in the game at all. Like any of those decisions where you kind of branch out and the city evolves based on those decisions, it's just not in the game. It's very interesting.
I don't remember that. Best thing I remember about Dying Light 2 was Techland having an open bar at 9 a.m. So credit to them.
I do remember that. Yeah. Did The Witcher do that too?
I don't know if I was invited to see
their Gwent game. They had like all these people come in, and it was basically just like, come drink with us. And they started in the morning, and they were like, yeah, we got a card game. Don't worry about it. Just drink. And it was very weird. I feel like the demo
they did for Cyberpunk as well. They had a whole bar set up and everything. Yeah. Vault Boy, good to see you, man. Thank you very much. And then Travis, you are on deck, sir. We got Stacy in the house coming at you.
Okay, so I learned from last week that Stacy actually does craft stories for me, and she tries to get me to figure them out, which I failed miserably at last week. The story last week was supposed to be about New Orleans. She was giving me pretty heavy clues about that with her trumpets and all the different foods, and I just it went over my head. So now that I trust Stacy as a storyteller, she's earned my faith. I'm going to really try to decipher this, and I'm going to look into it, and I'm going to theory craft. I'm going to start a YouTube series about, unraveling the mysteries behind these string of emojis. Fried foods. So there's French fries and a fried egg. So that's fried foods in the Milky Way galaxy. And then there's a pie, which is baked. Okay, is there any correlation there? Fried foods in the Milky Way galaxy with a pie.
Well, the funny thing is on YouTube, it shows a slice of pumpkin pie. Whereas on StreamYard, it shows a whole pie. So just be
interesting. Aware. Okay. So, and then there's an eye. So this is really deep. I can tell she's trying to.
What is making you say that's the Milky Way galaxy?
I thought it was
that looks like the Milky Way galaxy to me.
I mean, it's a spiral galaxy.
It's a spiral galaxy, but I'm going to say that because emojis are made by humans, and humans are self-centered creatures that believe they're the center of the universe, that we designed it to reflect our own galaxy. So I'm going to say Milky Way galaxy, a pie, your eyes on the pies.
Yes.
Eyes on the pie.
A businessman hitting goals, bullseye, magnifying glass, information, and then what is that last one? Is that
It's a cocktail,
a tropical drink of some kind?
You got to celebrate with a cocktail.
I'm going to say a tropical drink because it has a small umbrella in it.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Okay, so. Give me about 4.5 weeks to come up with a better
You're not done yet because she did two. So that was your first story. Here's your second.
Stacy. Oh boy. Okay. Is this on the same channel? I'm trying to find it. So
She did one on each channel, so.
Of course she did, Stacy. You bastard. You genius. Story time. All right. There was a leopard hunting down a chicken. A teacup without a handle.
That's ramen. I'm gonna go with ramen.
That's ramen. I think that's a teacup, like
green tea, like you hold the
tea.
cup.
Yeah.
Maybe the leopard made the chicken into ramen.
Okay.
Chicken ramen.
All right, I'm gonna go with that then. If you insist, Dan. A cheetah caught a chicken, made it into chicken soup, which it drank out of a cup because it's a classy leopard. And then it relaxed on the beach under an umbrella. And then it got into a canoe, sailed to a national park, through some waves, cracked open a coconut, and found a genie inside. And it wished for a home. It wished for a home. Its first wish was a nice little hut to live in.
Yeah.
There you go.
What a
I'm
twist.
pretty sure that
Thanks,
that's
Jason.
Moana.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right. It is the story of Moana. Oh my God. Oh my God, Hoeg. All right, that's pretty crazy.
Okay.
Wait, is there
Well, you're
a genie
not
in
done
Moana?
yet.
I thought I've seen that. I've seen that movie. There's no genie.
Brr.
Oh, the bad guy at the end is kind of a magical.
I mean, there's demigods all around Moana.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. That was very good, Hoeg. I would not have. My brain would not have gone to Moana, but you're right. There's a chicken in that movie. I've seen that one.
There's a chicken in that movie. Stacy, thank you very much. Rob's putting you on the spot now.
Oh boy.
I'll
I will
grade
grade your
the
story translation, Travis. Okay. Is this on your channel or Hoeg?
This is on SG channel, yes.
Okay. Yeah, because it's a black heart on yours, which is going to change the story, but it looks like on YouTube it's a red heart. So I'm going to go with red heart. Oh, interesting.
I mean, the answer's in the chat, Travis.
Yeah, don't look.
Trying to help you out there, buddy.
Okay. Oh, is this a Hoeg? Okay, so it's got the scales, which people ascribe to Hoeg. It's got a TV, so I'm gonna say he's watching Hoeg's show, and a brain. Hoeg has a bad brain. His brain's broken. I'm gonna say he watches Hoeg's show about. Oh, you did an episode about your stroke. So he's watching your stroke series and he loves it. Or he's
referencing. Travis didn't look at the answer.
I don't believe him.
He definitely looked. Looked
for sure.
No, guys, I have integrity. Also, I can't scroll that far down because I'm on a tiny laptop. Okay, I assume Travis failed. It wouldn't be surprising. The story was love your stroke series, Hoeg. Travis score F. Hey, I unraveled it. It just took some time. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's good. I was going to say, okay. So he loved your stroke series. Got it. All right.
There you go.
All right. Got
Perfect.
it.
Rob with the 567.
What's that?
To be clear, that's the series of videos and not the stroke itself.
Yeah.
Not
his stroke series.
He loved the series of strokes you've had.
Yeah.
I don't think that's it either. And he just keeps going. So there you go.
Okay.
Travis deserves it. Congratulations. A+.
Thank you.
567. What's the 567 relevant?
I have no idea. But you went from an F to A+ in a span of like 2 minutes. So bravo, sir.
Oh my God.
Nice.
It's very much Travis's educational history.
Yeah.
Guys, Stacy revealed the secret behind the first story. Can we get the first story back up, Ans?
The first story back up. Oh boy.
Yeah, the one with the Milky Way.
Hold. Sorry, audio listeners, bear with us.
Answer right there, just popped up on the screen. It was all things that rhymed with Thai guy. French fry, pan fry, galaxy, baked
pumpkin pie,
Thai guy, bull's eye, magnify, lowercase I.
Yeah. My Thai?
My
Thai.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, Dan. Good job. All right.
Right. That's
Interesting.
I'm
Wow,
out.
she truly has the eye for emoji stories. This is very. She's an
She
artist.
has the eye, huh?
Is this art?
Yeah.
I think this is art.
Hey, we say technical, legal, industry insight. We're now adding art to it. You know, we do it all here, man. We do it all.
Night sky.
Oh,
Thank
the night
you.
sky. Thank
Wow.
you, Leafy. Good
Wow,
call.
we were both wrong.
All right. I guess we should get back to gaming at some point.
Sure.
I mean, why not?
Sure.
So we had weird segue here. We had a Street Fighter 6 showcase this week. I am a big Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. I don't really do fighting games too much anymore, except for Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, because I just grew up with those and was really interested to see what Capcom was going to put forth here. And I was very surprised at the depth of Street Fighter 6 and what they're doing with that game, because not only do they have the 18 fighters at launch and the ranked mode and all this other stuff from a fighting perspective, but they had this world tour mode, which is essentially like you create your own avatar. And I swear when you go into the world, because I played the demo yesterday, it feels like you're in a Yakuza game. It's very crazy in the sense of like you're running around this open world with conversations to be had and tying into the whole street fighting theme of it. Very interesting. Did any of you, I don't know off the top of my head on this panel, if anyone else is really interested in Street Fighter 6 like I am?
Yeah.
I didn't see this. I didn't even know what happened. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I previewed
Okay.
it. I played Street Fighter 6. It's cool.
And Dan just takes off. So yeah, I played a few matches of it. It is extremely beautiful, extremely smooth to play. And I think that, Street Fighter is one of those legendary IPs that has a very hardcore community behind it. And, it'll show up at EVO, it'll show up at the big fighting game competitions. And from what I've played, not that I've gone super deep into it, but they definitely have a big winner on their hands here.
Yep.
So it's going to be, it launches basically the same week as Diablo 4, which we're going to talk about too in a second. But I think, beginning of June is
crazy.
nuts. And I think that, this is going to be another monster hit for Capcom. Capcom, who just seems to be putting out hit after hit. I don't know if they can do any wrong lately. They Monster Hunter is through the roof, despite my opposition to it as a franchise.
Opposition. I don't know if you describe it that way. Opposition.
No. A running joke between me and Elo over at SG, but obviously Resident Evil absolutely crushing it. Resident Evil 4 remake and 2 remake and everything that's gone on with the Resident Evil, despite Hoeg's opposition to Village as it being a game. And then, of course, they had Exo Primal, which is one of the most bizarre concepts we've seen come along, but people love the hell out of that. And the beta they played, and now Street Fighter 6 is getting ready to launch and looks huge. So the Capcom Renaissance is here, and I'm here for it.
More Mega Man.
Capcom-assance.
Capcom-assance and more Mega Man. Both good. So, okay, we'll move on from Street Fighter 6. Anyone in the comments or leave us a comment. I'm happy to talk a little more about it, but it's impressive.
I played that game like 6 months ago, and back then it felt like a finished game. And so the fact that it's not coming out till June, I mean, that game is going to crush it. It's going to be a really good game. I could already tell. So, I'm very excited to play more of it.
Yeah. With Street Fighter 5, right, they made the mistake of, in many people's opinion, making that exclusive, right, where they've moved away from Street Fighter 6. It's all platforms, as you said, extremely well polished from what I've seen. And people have reported, because there were sites like IGN that did previews of it. It just looks like it's going to be an absolute banger.
Yeah. I wish I were better at that game.
That's my problem is, to be good at it, you got to put in time, right? Well, true.
You have to put in
fighting
serious time on that game.
Yeah.
Like that one is like, that's the funny thing is when people comment on like, oh, IGN sucked at this game in their preview or whatever. It's like a lot of times you sit down, it's your first time playing the game. You only have 12 minutes with it. And then, you have to record that footage and use it in, the video that you create. And so it's tough, man. Sometimes your first impression of a game, and it'd be like you watching somebody figure out a game through the tutorial, or even worse than that, they throw them into the 4th level and you don't get to play the tutorial, and then putting that on the internet. That's definitely how I felt with Street Fighter 6. I sat down, and I think the person I was fighting against was a professional that they invited to come play against me, and he was teaching me how to do stuff. And so a lot of the footage I ended up capturing was very clearly me and him talking while he was like, oh yeah, you do this thing, and he was doing some fancy move, and then I was like, okay, let me do that. And then people watching it are like, why are they not fighting each other? And I'm like, you don't get it. Yeah.
You're supposed to hit each other, Travis.
Yeah, you're supposed to hit each other. I know that. Okay, I had 12 minutes with this game, and I had to unveil a new character and all this other stuff. But yeah, I love fighting games. It's just one of those things where I don't have enough time for any of the fighting games I want to be really good at. The only one I've really put time into, actually, it's not true. I was going to say Mortal Kombat, but I also got into Soul Calibur for a long time. So I love fighting games, but they require you to play hundreds of hours, and ain't nobody got time for that.
That's my problem. Is I'm really hyped for this game, and I'll be getting it at launch. But it launches right alongside Diablo 4, which is easily, as we've talked many times about, my most anticipated game that I'm going to lose my life to. So I don't think I'm going to be any good at Street Fighter. But the cool thing for fighting game fans.
So.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So the cool thing about Street Fighter, though, is we talked before about kind of the horror game renaissance we're experiencing right now with all the big horror games coming back and doing really well. Fighting's the same thing. There's so many good fighting games, and we're getting Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 12, and Tekken 8 in a year.
There's another one, right? There's that anime fighting game as well. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, there's
a few. But
it's every major fighting game is getting a game this year, which is crazy. Every major.
Very cool. Very cool. We also got a Diablo 4 showcase. So they talked 90 minutes, a pretty deep dive into late game, end game, skill building, the Paragon system, late game loot. Obviously, as a diehard Diablo guy and nerd when it comes to that stuff, I loved it. But the big announcement, of course, is we are getting another beta weekend. Wink, wink. Coming May 12th to May 14th. They're calling it the Server Slam because they really want to obviously grind on the servers and make sure they're prepared for launch, which I think is a good idea. Because if you saw their open beta statistics, they said 61 million hours played in a weekend for that open
1 million
beta
of those by me.
If you just do the simple math on that, that's a lot of players, no matter, how much you chalk that up. And we know they had queue times and things with the open and closed betas, right? So I think they're trying to do their best to avoid that situation at launch, which I applaud them for. I think I talked with a group last night on PTK show, shout out to the Shop podcast, by the way, where Blizzard is kind of putting on a clinic of how to speak to your hardcore audience. They have done so well with Diablo 4, not only in terms of kind of your high-end marketing, right, to your larger audience, but in terms of the stuff like people like me want to see with the details on the core things, the end game, the loot, the character building, and bringing on the right people and the right conversations to do that and really deep dive into it. And I think they've just done a bang-up job of preparing for people for this game. And I think Diablo 4, from a sales perspective and engagement perspective, is going to blow the roof off. I think it's going to be easily one of the biggest games this year.
So I have an interesting perspective on this, which is that
Go ahead.
I knew about this announcement and the Server Slam before it happened, and I even had a chance to interview the designer lead at Diablo for this announcement.
I saw that video.
So you can see that on IGN.com and on YouTube. But I got to interview them and talk to them about their beta learnings and talk to them about their live service model, which, as you guys know, I know a lot about and had a lot of questions for them about. Not all of that made it into the final version of the video, but and then I also got to ask them about the Server Slam and what's going on with it. So this was pretty cool to just be able to talk to them directly and ask them questions about this. But I would say the thing that has impressed me most about all of this, obviously, everything they're doing with launch so far has been spectacular. Like, they're doing all the right moves that you'd want to do to have a successful launch, including the Server Slam. And just, it's been nothing but good news for Diablo 4. I think they've had a really good news cycle leading up to Diablo 4. But But the thing that surprises me the most is how quickly they have been able to respond to feedback. Pretty big changes to the dungeons. Pretty big changes to, and it goes beyond just like, you know, nerfing the necromancer, which we all knew was going to happen. And I personally think they made it OP on purpose to kind of make a little bit of hype around the second weekend. But you know, the end game stuff, the dungeons that they changed made huge changes to the way some of that stuff works. And there was at least one other thing that they changed that surprised the heck out of me. But anyway,
they said they were changing the procedural stuff to avoid backtracking, right? I mean, like,
the backtracking, making enemies come after you when you're in the open world or when you're in a dungeon, so that you don't have to do it. They also, and this isn't positive necessarily, but they removed a feature from the game in response to people exploiting it, which is the ability to reset dungeons. They removed the reset dungeon button, and that will be, and then the fact that all of that is going to be available in the server slam, meaning that it's already changed in the game. And my discussions with them is that it's already implemented. Like their version that went gold, the version that went gold this past week, already had the stuff in it kind of changed. And so I asked them about their live service model, and the answer wasn't perfect. The answer wasn't, oh yeah, we have a separate team working on season passes and a separate team working on the long-term kind of life of the game and some of the stuff you would hope to hear from a live service model. It was basically that nobody's really working on Diablo 4 anymore. Everybody has moved over to the live service team and is working on that. And so that's great to see, because it means that we already have people working on it, but it's not what the ideal answer you get when you ask that is, oh yeah, we have a separate team that's been working on that for, you know, a year plus, because you want there to be content coming out at a regular clip right from, you don't want to have that year-long gap that every live service game has, where there's really nothing new except for, you know, small seasons and kind of piecemeal content for the first year until you get something major. But it was it's super comforting to see that they understand the urgency around making changes, and that their engine allows them to make massive adjustments in a short span of time, and that they understand that that's part of the model to be successful. So I'm incredibly hopeful about this game, and obviously we'll be taking part in the server slam. Got to kill a Shava and get my mount trophy from that. And this is looking like it's going to be a contender for game of the year if they hit all the points that they seem to be hitting, and I'm very excited for it as somebody who loves Diablo but kind of wasn't in love with Diablo 3. As you guys know, the game made me fall asleep quite often in a way that Diablo 1 and 2 didn't, because those games were, you know, catnip for me when I was younger.
It's hard to go back to 3. 3 is going to be like
it is.
The second cousin from the series, based on 1, 2, and 4 and how they look and approach the same kind of concepts.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it feels like a non-mainline game in some ways, like it's kind of an offshoot or an experiment. But I'm glad they learned that lesson. But man, Diablo 4 is so far everything that I wanted it to be, and I'm gonna have to play the heck out of it. I don't know if you guys know what it means to review a live service game at IGN, but it basically means that you're on the hook. Like the last live service game I agreed to review was Destiny, and now I've been playing it for 9 years and doing 9 years worth of reviews. So if, you know, by me accepting Diablo 4, I think I'm pretty much on the hook to like keep up with this game forever.
You're going to be reviewing the season of the Mongoose in 3 years.
Exactly. I'm going to be reviewing the crazy expansion that comes out 9 years from now is going to be me if they're still working on this game. So it's pretty crazy.
It feels like they're sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Oh, I was to say the best part of that interview was the bone spear questions and the necro, you know. So have you guys nerfed the bone spear? I think is what you asked them, and I don't think they did.
They did not nerf the bone spear. They nerfed corpse explosion, which that's totally fair. They probably should have, and they nerfed your necro pets. They made your your skeleton's more squishy, which also fair. Like the two things they nerfed were fair, and then I asked them specifically about Bone Spear because that's how I kind of just ran through that entire playthrough.
Hard hitting questions.
I mean, I asked usually an interview, best policy, at least for me, is ask the questions I would want to know the answer to. And so I was just like, I'm going to ask all the questions I care about. Like, what specifically did you touch on the Necromancer? But they did not touch Bone Spear. And it sounds like they made Druid and Barbarian better. Like Barbarian gets a 10% damage reduction across the board.
Passive, passive
very
damage reduction.
Needed. Yeah, it very much needed that.
Now, one thing I'm confused about, Travis, is that they're calling it a server slam. It's in the middle of May. Is it asking for different data? Is there something that they're trying to do on their server side there? Or is it just that there's only the one window? So they expect everybody to pop in.
I asked about that as well, because my question was, didn't we already do that? Didn't I slam your servers? Like I destroyed your servers.
When it said 43-minute queue, wasn't that a server slam?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the question I asked.
Yeah, but then they almost said, well, you don't want another server slam. All right. That's cool.
That's basically what they said to me. Like, no, but the actual answer they gave, they did make that joke, Dan, and it was pretty funny. They're like, wow, it sounds like IGN doesn't want us to do this. So no weekend. We're canceling it. Okay. No, their answer was basically that whereas the other betas were to do the stuff that they got as answers, right? They got answers from that, and they've already made changes to the game based on the answers that they got from the beta. This is explicitly about just putting their servers through the paces, and they're basically doing it so that, and they're doing it on live services or on live servers with the gold version of the game that we will be playing on day one. So it's not a temporary only Act 1 is baked into the game, all that stuff. It's the full version of the game with a blocker around the parts you can access, going live. And so it's basically going to replicate exactly what will happen on day one. And they're doing it in advance to avoid having issues on day one. Because you know how when you release a game, you break it for the first 48 hours.
Blizzard surely does, right? I mean, they were error 37 for Diablo 3 for like a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, yes. Okay.
So they're hoping to break the game 48 hours early and then turn the servers back on after those problems have been fixed for actual day one, and then not have to deal with it on day one. And so it's explicitly to basically work out the kinks with the final version of the game that's going to be there.
And they said during their 90-minute show this week that they already have a lot of learnings from the first two betas, close and open, like technical networking things that they've already made changes on, and they want to test those changes as well. So this is helping in that regard.
Yeah,
make sure they're working properly.
Hoping to avoid all the issues that we know are probably going to be there. And so my guess will be the server slam will be a wholly unpleasant experience in the same way that the first two weekends were in terms of queue times and disconnects and stuff. But hopefully this is the last check they need to see if the changes they made from the first two betas work. And then hopefully, since it's their version of the game that's going to be there on day one has been finalized, hopefully it goes off with that hitch. We'll see though.
Yeah,
this stuff is difficult. Clearly,
the funny thing is the login issue was one thing, but the other thing that annoyed me at times in the open beta with an always connected game is when you're fighting something and there's latency. Right. So like you're swinging and it's not making contact with an enemy. That'll drive me nuts. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I hope that obviously they've made improvements in that area. They spoke like they have, and I'm sure they'll continue to work on it, but we'll see. From a live service perspective, Travis, I've gotten the feeling, so Diablo's kind of history, if you're not aware, right, is they release their core game and they tune it up and they make changes like they've hit buffs, nerfs, etc. to certain things and change loot and stuff. But really what they typically do is then like a year, 18 months, 2 years later, they release an expansion which features additional story content, but also additional class usually. So what I was kind of understanding from I'm just guessing from the way they've talked about things so far, is that their battle pass live service model is really just for the people like in Path of Exile who buy a lot of cosmetics, right? If you really want all the cosmetics, you're going to buy the battle pass and want to do that because there's going to be cool cosmetics for the classes and that and the weaponry and stuff. But do we feel like the actual core content, including region editions, story editions, class editions, are going to be driven more like a live service model this time?
Yes, and they've said as much.
Okay.
So basically, what they said is the reason they're going with a live service game is because they want seasonal content to be more than just a, replay the same campaign and unlock some new cosmetic things. They still have the season pass, and they're going to have a store to buy cosmetics for people who care about it. But the idea is that they want seasonal content to have more meaningful content, including new story stuff. And I don't think they mentioned new regions specifically, but they definitely said like new stories within seasons, and they want them to be more than just kind of the end game grind. Although they are still talking about that, and I assume that that's going to be a big part of it. But yeah, this is a complete change for them. They describe their game as a live service game. It's not just always online for the sake of being always online and selling you microtransaction. It's a strategy, and they are it seems like shifting the way their team works. I wish they were shifting it more. I wish they were hiring a separate team to do this. I wish that they would take some of the learnings that Bungie's team has done and Fortnite Epic Games team has done to do more kind of the road mapping. Because my biggest concern right now is that there's going to be a gap, and that they're going to be too busy patching the game and making adjustments to focus on the roadmap and long-term development. And usually you want separate teams for that. And they basically confirmed in the interview I did with them that they don't have that they have kind of the core team, and now they're moving the people on that team over to live service, and that most of the team is already working on it. But that roadmap is going to get interrupted hardcore when the game's out in the wild, and then they realize there's all these things they have to fix and adjust, and you get off track really quickly, and that delays content, and that's bad, which is why you want separate teams for it. And I didn't get the impression that they've done the hiring to do that. But the good news is they at least have the right attitude and strategy in mind, which is that they're not thinking of this as, oh, it's just another Diablo game and we're going to have an expansion in a year or 2 years. No, they're like, we understand you need content almost immediately to come out, and that we're already working on that. And I think that's huge. If done correctly, could be amazing, because that's always been the biggest problem with Diablo is just it's too little too late when it comes to that content. And that's fine when that's what you're selling, right? And that's the expectation from players has always been it's a standalone game, but they're going a different route this time, and I think it has the potential to be really, really cool. I'm just worried, as always, live services are hard.
We've talked about it many times.
Team has never done this before, and I just I hope that I'm almost certain that Diablo 4 at this point, I've almost seen enough of the game to start to form an opinion and have confidence that it's going to be a good game. But whether it will be good in the long run remains to be seen, and I don't think I have any idea about the answer to that. I have clues from talking to their team and looking at the stuff that they've said in the past, but I don't know if it's going to be a slam dunk as a live service game. That remains an open question.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a live service success, but I do think the base game jumps off the page really as a game of the year type game.
Yep, I would agree with that assessment 100%. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, damn it. I lost my train of thought. Well, while I remember what I was going to say, I'll pose Rob's comment. He said, isn't both Blizzard Team 3 and Blizzard Albany working on D4? I had assumed one was focused on live service while the other was focused on core gameplay.
I thought that as well. And they basically confirmed in the interview that is not the case. They basically said that all the people working on D4 were 100% focused on completing the game.
They had to pull them over.
And that as soon as that happened, they started transitioning people over to live service. And it sounds like that transition started happening a while ago. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened like middle of last year or something like that. But it's not the same. It's not what you're suggesting, which is like they already had in mind a standing team for live service development. It sounds like that happened later in the game's development. And I don't want to say it's an afterthought, because I think that might be too harsh on them, but it definitely they didn't build a live service team, a separate group to work on that. That basically was confirmed to me in the interview.
I know what I was going to say now is the interesting thing too that'll feed into this conversation down the road is, and I don't want to get into the conversation about it, but Activision Blizzard acquisition, right? So as after this game launches, if everything kind of goes as Hoeg's explained in the past many times cleanly, this will be technically under the Xbox umbrella here post-launch. I wonder how that will have any effect, if at all, around the future of this game and how it's supported. Nashay on Hoeg's side, Nashay Jones, shout out to you. She's asking some questions around just the game in general. And she says, I like RPGs, especially turn-based ones. Not much of a fan of MMOs. People aren't generally kind to folks that aren't good at the game in MMOs. Yeah, so she was asking if this game is an MMO. And I said, no, not really. It's kind of this weird mix where you can play it solo, you can play it in co-op, and there are areas in the game where you will see other real players. But the nice thing is they're not going to negatively impact your experience. And a lot of the core things like the dungeons or main quest progression, that kind of stuff is all yours as you see fit as well. So it's kind of this.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it in the MMO bucket. If you're concerned about MMOs and people talking to you about not doing enough in your Final Fantasy 14 run or whatever, that's not this kind of game.
No, you'll be fine. And it's a very enjoyable game to play both solo or with friends. I've done both ever since Diablo was a thing. You won't have that negativity surrounding you in this game.
I love that MMOs and
or just stress, right? You just
exactly.
I want to hit the buttons. I want to get my rotation right, and then they'll yell at me if I don't. You don't.
I think Diablo has always been one of those games that it's assumed that you can do the end game solo. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be the case with Diablo 4. And so I would say maybe it's putting one foot into the MMO pool because it dedicates a lot of its resources. And so far, we've already seen events that require you to interact with the community in some regard, though you can do so passively. World bosses, for example, are basically a required group activity. You cannot beat those alone. It's just impossible. And so I have a feeling that this will be the first Diablo game where not all end-game activities are completable by yourself. I don't know if that's a bad thing. It does mean that you probably will have to interact with people if you get super, super into the weeds of the end game. But
be careful when you say interact with people, right? Because you don't have to talk to them. You don't have to engage with them. You just have to have other people smacking something with you, right? It's passive, as you said.
For world bosses, I think that might not be the case for all of the content. And we'll see. I could be wrong, but they've not announced anything that's drastically different.
You're thinking of raids? I mean, like Destiny type stuff?
I'm thinking not raids, but I'm thinking something like that where you have to seek out a group or where it's much more practical to do it with a group. I think there will be LFGs for this game, essentially. But we'll see. They haven't defined it. It's just that's the impression I get because they have put so much work into that landscape. And to its credit, like I said in one of my reviews in progress during the beta, is that like people will walk around and interact with you. It's not like you're walking past a bunch of ghosts. Like some guy was slaying alongside me, and then we emoted at each other, and then I invited him to join my group, and then we grouped up, and then later he joined my clan, and we kind of became buddies on Xbox Live, and it was like, all right, this works. Like it makes you kind of organically get introduced to people, unless you're a curmudgeon and ignore it. Like some of my IGN coworkers who talked about how they didn't interact with anybody and didn't want to. I think there's a lot of Diablo players though who really like the solitary experience of Diablo, and I think you can still do that.
You'll be able to do 98% of the game.
That's my theory. That's my theory, and I think they might even shoot for 100%. But we'll see. I think they've put so many resources into the multiplayer experience that I would be surprised if there was nothing that required you to have a group or find a group or something like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. The other thing I wanted to shout out, though, that I don't think there's anything hugely newsworthy here, unless you guys want to call out something specifically, was around Nintendo's Indie World Showcase. So they did a 20-minute.
Do you like cats? Because Nintendo does.
Lots of cats. So, there's a 20-minute showcase Nintendo did this week. All indie games coming to the Switch platform. And if there's any games you guys want to call out specifically, please do. The only thing I was
that, whatever it is, Maneki Neko in the night market or whatever, I can't remember. Oh, yeah. It's like a cat crafting things and selling it in the market. It's like my kids are going to go crazy.
There you go. So look at Dan. I'm going to help Dan out here and throw him a bone. So let's talk Oxenfree too.
No.
Yes, let's hit him with some Oxenfree.
So the aspect of this I found interesting, which I know a lot of people did, is Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals coming. It's launching on every single platform, including Mac and Netflix. It's not coming to Xbox. And I think
it's a Netflix company, I think is worth pointing out as far as everything goes here. We talked about it when it happened, but Night School got purchased by Netflix as part of their initiative to go more into gaming. And then a lot of people asked me about Xbox. And I said, well, look, I really do think Netflix and Game Pass are having an actual battle. And so Netflix is unlikely to support the makers of Game Pass into the future. And it's not really that unusual to me to look at that. People compare it to like Final Fantasy and things like that. And it's like, no, it's not the same as Square Enix being weird. Netflix is making a call here. And saying, I think we're not scared of Sony.
Yeah. No, that's where I was going to go, is because I saw your tweet about it, Hoeg, and I was going to say that I had a conversation about this last night in the other show I did around, Netflix is going down the gaming route, as we know, right? They have a paid subscription model. Obviously, they have I looked last night, 230 million paid subscribers on Netflix as of the first quarter, which is nuts to kind of think about. But yeah, I mean, to Hoeg's point, there is a path that crosses with Game Pass in the subscription gaming space, and it shouldn't be overly surprising that Netflix will do something like this. But I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that, because I did find that interesting, of all things.
But why? I guess, is it going to be on PS Plus? I mean, you're just because Microsoft owns Game Pass or has Game Pass, they're not going to put their games on it, even just to purchase.
I don't think they're going to support the maker of what they view as a legitimate competitor to their business model.
I get it.
Yeah,
that's fine. I mean, this is a win for Xbox people, so I don't know why anybody's complaining about it. Just take it and enjoy it.
Shut up.
Oxenfree is excellent.
Total win.
God damn,
you are missing out on nothing unless
Oxenfree is excellent. I expect to be very good as well.
And terrible stories, and teenagers that are
terrible
trying to find themselves.
Terrible story. How much of the story did you get?
I played 6 hours with what were their names, like Ren, and no one who has those names. Nobody has those names. It's like
Oxenfree is a good game.
It's not good.
You know what else nobody has as a name?
No.
47.
47. Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody else is also a bald assassin with a barcode on the back of their head.
But why does it matter? Why does realism matter in this regard?
Listen, I'm just telling you, you're going to get you're winning, Xbox. I don't even understand this. I don't understand the argument.
We just got to let Dan go.
You probably have Netflix.
Was one of the better
play it on Netflix.
One of the better evolutions of adventure games of the past 10 years.
Punch me in my face. That's what I
I will punch you in your face. Is that a kink? All right. I'm not. I did not see Hoeg's tweet, but I kind of came to the same conclusion. I was like, of course they're not putting it on, because I think they view all the other platforms that they're putting this on as potential distribution partners. That's the angle, right? Some of them possibly even acquisitions. I could see Netflix buying PlayStation someday, for example. But I don't think they have that same relationship with Microsoft. Microsoft is not for sale. Obviously, they couldn't afford them anyway, and they have a lot of the stuff that puts them at odds with Netflix, whether it's their cloud ecosystem that they own and control, and also can use to serve up Game Pass and whatever other services they want, including streaming services if they wanted to. And then also they're in the subscription space. It's a subscription war, and that's the business Netflix is in. And I don't expect them to ever be allies or even friendly in that regard. It's also worth noting that they probably don't need that platform to sell well, and that is not true of some of the other platforms. I think if they didn't put it on PlayStation, it would be a lot harder to sell copies. But Xbox is an easy platform to miss, because look at all the successful businesses that don't sell their game on Xbox and do just fine. Xbox is not, what are they, seventh still 7th in the marketplace. So you can skip out on the 7th largest platform and not be kicking yourself about it. So
Didn't After Party come to Xbox? Wasn't that?
Yep.
there?
that was on Game Pass.
Yeah, go figure.
Night School wasn't owned by Netflix at the time.
Correct.
There you go. That makes sense. Yeah,
And you can see they updated the Night School logo in that trailer for Oxenfree 2. It now says a Netflix studio.
Ah,
oh, there you go. Yeah.
there you go. Well,
just
Dan
go.
will be there day one. Look for Dan's review shortly after release.
Something else is going to come out.
Make
that
him
day.
review Oxenfree 2.
Fine.
Be fair and unbiased.
I don't think anybody in this world could force Dan to review Oxenfree 2.
No, I think they could, because the incentive on his side would be to just tank that Metacritic. I mean,
That's what I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
I'm a big review bomber. That's my thing.
As for that trailer, Oxenfree 2 does look like it's doing some cool stuff in the adventure game space with the radio signals and things like that. So I think it is worth looking forward to, just not if you only own an Xbox.
Yeah,
correct.
Fair enough. Well, it's not Dan's game, but it'll definitely have an audience.
yeah.
I do hate franchises that have one game on the platform and then because like I own Oxenfree 1 on Xbox, so now I have to figure out. Yeah, it's frustrating, like especially with some of the meta stuff that Oxenfree does. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there was some way it looked at your first save file if you have one available and did something weird with it, because it's known for doing some of that weird Metal Gear Solid-esque meta stuff so yeah, that would suck for somebody who played it on Xbox to not be able to be a part of that without having to replay Oxenfree. So
Well, just play your Oxenfree
Nobody wants to
on
do
your
that.
Switch, folks.
Yeah. Nobody. Why'd you want to replay it?
you don't like the game, okay? Yeah,
Speaking of
I don't know
Netflix,
why everybody's complaining about it. I mean, it's just like, oh, this is a win.
because it's a game that they like and they want to play it.
I can't count for taste for
A
everybody.
lot of people think it's a strong game, Dan.
Yeah, those people are wrong.
More people agree with us than you. And
Reasonable minds can differ.
Okay, that's fair.
and also,
We'll go with that.
reasonable. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention because I see Googleman just put a comment. So I know I've mentioned this before, but just for channel supporters on both sides of the house here, sadly, the channel supporter messages do not get pulled over to the software running the stream, so I can't put them up on the screen. So it kind of makes them hard to kind of speak to. They're not like super chats where I can put them up, or even normal comments where I can put them up on the screen. They don't come over. So just a heads up on that. The other thing with Netflix I just wanted to mention, because it was kind of big news this week, is Joseph Staten, of course, of Bungie and Halo and 343 fame, now over at Netflix. He announced that he got hired over there as a creative director on a new AAA, this is how he worded it, new AAA multi-platform IP that Netflix Game Studios is developing. So
top
that's
10
all
anime betrayals right there.
So we'll see what that looks like. But obviously, Joe is, for those who aren't aware of Joe, his lot of an incredible resume. He also, if you're not aware, he actually wrote one of the Halo books that was a New York Times bestseller. He has a big history with those studios and a lot of experience in the gaming industry. So interesting to see. I think as the time goes on here, we'll be talking more about Netflix's foray into the gaming space, but we'll see what that looks like.
Sorry, they don't call it games. They call it interactive movies, right? That's what they went with.
Are you being serious? Oh,
I'm serious. They called it an interactive movie, and I was like, bro, there's already a word for that. It's called video game.
What was that called? It started with like a Z or something.
I don't remember. Yeah, some weird name.
Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch. Thank you. I was close. I was not that far off.
I like that.
Reference?
First of all, I like Babadook's a great horror movie separately, but I like that I said it started with a Z. Well, I wasn't even close.
Yeah, you were not close at all. I was close.
was right on.
They're very close. But yeah, no, I hate Netflix's approach to video games, which they, at least so far, they viewed it as like almost an extension of movies, and they did that thing that like Uber did when Uber invented buses. Remember that? Uber was like, oh, and now, yeah, this is real. Uber was like, oh, and now you can also take a pre-decided route with a group of carpoolers. And I was like, that's a bus. Like that, you invented buses, bro. Like that's not a new idea. And Netflix saying, oh, it's an interactive movie without completely oblivious to the fact that they just reinvented video games just pissed me off so much that I no longer. If there was ever any chance of me wanting Netflix to be a voice and a leader in the video game space, it went out the door pretty quickly. And I am now, kind of rolling my eyes anytime I see Netflix getting into the gaming space until further notice, until they prove to me that they deserve a seat at the table.
That's amusing to me, Travis, because Bandersnatch is very aware that it's a video game. It's about video games. That's the subject matter of the episode.
I know, and that's kind of the ironic part of Netflix not understanding what they had on their
I think it's deliberately ironic.
I mean, that's how they marketed it.
Right, because they don't want to confuse the audience into thinking that there's more direct control than there is. Right? I mean, you pick which cereal the kid eats. It's not exactly a video game.
Yeah, the fact that they labeled it one way to make it more palatable for their audience annoys me.
I think businesses making things palatable for their audience is, generally speaking, a good business move.
I get that it's a good business move. I can still be irritated that, they're... Do you want to get in the gaming space or not? How do you market...
They're biding their time.
How do you market Oxenfree 2 as a movie? How can we do that? For business reasons.
Oxenfree 2 will be an action-adventure game, but...
Yeah, but can they market it as a movie? Is there a way to do that, Hoeg? Let's get in a room as business people and find a way to speak to the lowest common denominator. And
they're going to announce Netflix Game Pass at some point in the next few years. I mean, that's what they're aimed at.
Certainly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but call it GameFly.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if they call it Game Pass. Honestly, that's got enough cachet that you call it Netflix Game Pass. You can say, "Come at me, bro," to Microsoft.
Yeah.
Well,
I think Microsoft would sue them if they did that.
Call it Game Pass. I think they would. They would lose. It's descriptive.
I think they would lose too, but I think they would sue them anyway.
They are a big tech juggernaut.
Yeah.
Two big angry companies suing each other.
That's just how big companies show their love, though, Hoeg. Yeah.
But I mean, if you take 230 million subscribers or more in the future, or less, who knows, and just say here's an addendum to your subscription, right? Game Pass, you get our Game Pass to play video games on Netflix. That could be real interesting.
Oh, it definitely could be interesting. I think the thing that scares me is the conversation around Xbox lowering the quality of games using a subscription service, which is a narrative I generally don't agree with. But if you want to talk about a company that's known for chugging out quantity over quality, Netflix, I mean, look no further than Netflix. And I think Netflix could have that philosophy that they live by, could have a real impact on game development and quality. And so they scare me for multiple reasons. It's sort of one. It's one of those things where like a company who doesn't really understand gaming breaking into it can sometimes do more damage to it, which is the same problem I had with Google Stadia and Amazon Luna. Is like Amazon, I think, understands gaming a little bit more, but like, you could see Google coming in with their worldview and their philosophy and just like running just rampant and messing things up in a way. And I think stuff like that, I'm generally not opposed to change and that sort of thing, but it does give me pause when I see people kind of like trying to shoehorn their way into an industry without understanding it first.
Well, I spoke at length last night on the show I did about that, Travis, and I agree with you because if you look at Netflix's track record, one of the biggest things they have a reputation for now, right, is starting something and just saying this didn't hit what we expected to hit and pulling out and being done with it. And if there's one industry where that's very dangerous, right, is gaming. Gaming, we've seen big companies come in and think they can just throw their money around and be successful. And it doesn't, that's not how the gaming industry works. And I'd be curious from Netflix's perspective, and I'm curious to see how this evolves over the next few years. They're talking about AAA multi-platform IPs. Those are huge, tremendous investments of both talent and money. And getting those to not only out the door, but then also being a financial and commercial success it's two different things.
Yeah.
You can have all the best intentions you want. So I could very easily see Netflix going down this route, dumping hundreds of millions, if not billions, into this over years, and then saying, this isn't giving us the return we expected, and just being done with it.
The other thing is, sorry, Hoeg, you go first. I've said enough.
All I was gonna say is I wouldn't assume anybody's actually gonna be able to get a AAA game out. I think it's a miracle every time. And
didn't Google try? Didn't Google try and fail before Stadia even launched to have their own AAA development studios? Wasn't that their play as well?
Kind of.
And then they doubled down. They built more and still failed.
I don't think Google ever really had a great idea as to their business model or what they were seeking to achieve. I'm not saying Netflix does. I'm just saying, yeah, when they get Joe Staten in there, when they're talking about a AAA game, I'm not as interested in that until it's actually in my hands, because I just don't think it's very likely. But yeah, if they want to keep buying up the night schools of the world, I think that could be something they could actually sell. I mean, what do I love about Game Pass? I've talked about this a number of times, but the ability to play indie games that you just can't really fully tell the quality of using a subscription model is just a really good feature. AAA, I assume, is going to be at least flashy or fun in some way that I'm used to. It might not be breaking the mold, but if you put that much resources into a game, generally speaking, I'm going to have a certain amount of fun. Indies are a lot different than that. And I know Dan is already just thinking the word indie in his head as I say it, but Night School made a good adventure game, made a couple of them. It's a good way to go in terms of direction. If I'm Netflix, I'm trying to see what exactly Concerned Ape wants as a check to bring in Haunted Chocolatier and New Stardew Valley only on Netflix. I mean, like that. Those are the kinds of things I'm aimed at with my money, rather than trying to make a AAA game. So even the announcement, it gives me pause, because it's like, no, that's not the way to win.
Exactly. Yeah, to me, Hoeg is right. Like, this should be the platform where they experiment and they work on smaller projects, because that's also more in line with Netflix's model. Like, Netflix, the reason they're known for quantity over quality is because it's easy to make a rom-com. You know, you get two actors that are kind of cute, and you write a vague script about how they want to have sex, but they can't yet. And then, you know, you shoot it in 2 weekends, and then the rest of it is kind of post. You can get content up quickly. Video games require years of work, hundreds of people working on them to do it right. Even if it's an indie game, it's years of work with small team, but the small team has to be at it for a long time. And Netflix has not shown a propensity for long-term commitments to their products, to their projects. They are very much a tech industry type of mentality, which, you know, Google is fail fast and make mistakes once. They're not afraid to kill things quickly, because that's their culture, right? That's how they do things, and that's very common in my part of the world in San Francisco. And yeah, I think that doesn't really match well with creatives. Creatives don't want to work on a small project in a couple weekends that maybe is not very good, because they're creative, and the reason they're in the industry is because they want to make works of art that stand the test of time and change the industry and have an impact on people's lives. And that doesn't really work when it takes years to make your game, and Netflix is hoping to pump things out really quickly. So there's a lot of open questions here. I don't have a ton of confidence in Netflix's long-term success, but I think if they are successful, it's going to take a really, really long time.
Yeah, and I wouldn't name it AAA, but I will say this in defense of Netflix, and with one side of my mouth, I will say most of what they make is crap. But on the other side, I will say Netflix is also kind of the place where fantasy and sci-fi lives in a certain respect now. Like, they have taken flyers on show ideas that I don't think ever would have worked in different contexts, and they've made Shadow and Bone and Warrior Nun and all these various things. Now, are they cutting them off too early? Yes, I think they are driven by their analytics more than they should be. There should be a little bit of a gray buffer area for finishing stories that they aren't allowing right now. But in terms of what they could aim their gaming design studios at, is that same kind of tween, slightly better than CW sci-fi fantasy vibe.
The worst.
Yeah, they could fund a lot of projects that would never, like, I think the way they would be successful Hoeg quickly is if they funded projects that would never get a green light in our current marketplace. But if they're trying to compete directly by creating like products, I think they're going to get their asses handed to them. And I think that they should be green lighting stuff where, like, oh, that is kind of too big of a project for Game Pass, but it's an indie game that maybe people wouldn't have had attention on. It would have been like a Steam Greenlight game. And if you can get some of those working on Netflix, then I think you've got a compelling proposition to players on your hand.
Well, I think they're still biding their time because I think there's a product there that they want to sell that they're just kind of tacking on to Netflix right now.
Yep.
So I think they're still waiting for what they want to do as their big announcement.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully they're making like an oxen-free MMO, Dan.
I was thinking Tiger King Zoo Simulator / RPG. I mean, like, use some of what you got. I mean, you guys say this stuff like it's all this. It's such like garbage stuff. But what's always number one? It's those Netflix originals that's like the people are watching, like The Night Agent. That is garbage. It is straight garbage, right? But it was number one for like 3 weeks.
It is the most nondescript lead actor I've ever seen in my life.
It's so bad.
It's the difference between a bad show or a bad movie and a bad video game is to watch a bad show. You can have it on in the background while you're cooking dinner or running on a treadmill. Video games require you to participate in the badness, and therefore I would rather watch very many bad movies than to play one bad video game, because playing a bad video game, you feel like it's your fault that it's bad. You know what I mean? Like, it is not a fun to participate in the badness is really bad.
I've never felt that way once.
Really? You haven't? You never played a video game and been like, wow, I'm partially responsible for this being terrible because I am part of it. It's like,
I bought it.
It's like it's like if somebody wrote like a bad stage play and we're like, and you're going to play the main character, and then you're on stage in front of the audience and you're like, I don't want to be here. I feel like I'm part of the reason people are not enjoying themselves. It's just a very odd paradigm.
I like a lot of people in the chat defending Night Agent, by the way. I've watched Night Agent. Night Agent
Come on, guys.
Night Agent is fine. It's not offensive or anything.
It's not from like that. I don't even know what that means. What is offensive? Like it's
offensively bad. Mandalorian.
Maybe that.
Come on, offensively.
I thought you were going like it's offensive to like politically offensive. That's what I thought you meant. Okay, so
that is never what I mean, Dan.
Yeah, well, it might be. It's just bad. It's terrible. Well, I mean, I'm sorry.
Offensively bad. That's what it should mean. But Hoeg loves his hyperbole. A middling show is a dumpster fire in his book. That's just how he rolls.
It's like
Night Agent is a middling show. I don't understand what we're doing now, Travis. Mandalorian is not up to Night Agent level.
Oh gosh.
I haven't watched either. I just find you guys fascinating listening to this conversation.
Like you've
it makes
never
me laugh.
actually seen a bad thing. I don't understand you.
I just said I watched Netflix. I've seen a lot of bad things.
Yeah, I would think you know better.
You watch like a baking show. I mean, that's
oh my gosh,
Mandalorian season 3 was awful. It was like gas was poured into the writer's room, and they couldn't come up with English sentences anymore.
What are we talking about? Mandalorian?
Mandalorian.
Well, they had the misfortune of running against Picard season 3, which was vastly better, but we'll leave that aside for a different podcast.
Now, was Picard season 3 better because the Mandalorian was garbage this season?
Probably. I mean, anytime you're watching two things at the same time, it can be helped by one being garbage and the other not.
You know what was awesome? This week's Ted Lasso. It was awesome.
I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, it's good. It's an over an hour long. Excellent episode.
I miss when people had moderated opinions. Those were the days.
That's what I'm known for. Only hyperbolic opinions.
That's what I know you for.
This is why he's a radical YouTuber,
He is. He's a radical YouTuber, 100%. Radical.
Let's knock out these
goat pen on Dead Island 2.
There you go. Let's knock out these last few super chats here.
All right, Siddhartha back again with the 1,100 Indian rupees. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Here's the question. Is making a video game inherently more risky than passive media if the focus is storytelling? Plague Tale Requiem made me think. I almost dropped it because gameplay sections were kind of passable, but love the overall narrative execution.
It's a good question.
I think there's a quadrant of gamer that doesn't care about narrative and or thinks that gaming is only about the interaction in gaming being quote unquote fun. And so I think that can be risky insofar as that audience really isn't available to you if you're making a narrative-focused video game. But I would much rather see 100 Plague Tale Requiems than things with the tightest 60 frames per second shooting And so it's not more risky for me, but there might not be a lot of me's out there. I don't know.
I think there are. And I think so. I think when he says, is it inherently more risky? I think it's more risky in some ways and less risky in others, because in one way, if you don't get one of those two things right, you could lose a substantial amount of your audience. But on the other way, in movies or TV show, you only really have one way to succeed. You have to make entertaining content. And in a video game, even if you fail at telling a compelling story, if your gameplay is good enough, people won't care, right? And they'll just play it anyway. And then you can also succeed by making the game, if the gameplay is lacking but the story is good, then a different group of people will play. So I think you have more ways to succeed in the video game space, but you also have more ways to fail. And so I think that provides,
I like the optimism there.
Yeah, I think it provides additional risks, but also additional ways to succeed. And I think that's a trade-off that's kind of interesting, but I don't know if it's more or less risky. I think there's pros and cons.
Well, and I see the word risky in a question like this, and I see cost, right? So, I mean, the one
certainly
thing
more costly. Yeah.
If you're talking about a AA or AAA game experience, it's going to be more expensive than most of the things you can put on passively on a TV screen. If you're talking about an indie game, obviously that's less risky. So the cost of the experience is going to also determine your risk level.
Yep. Yeah. I think Travis said it well. I was going to basically say the same. I think there's more inherent risks in a way, but there's also more ways to benefit depending on your execution. So, well, I mean, we've seen plenty of examples of where a really non-gameplay focused game experience have been successful. In fact, Hoeg has preached about immortality near endlessly on this show and the quality of it. And it's not known for gameplay, right?
Yeah, the gameplay is basically non-existent, but
yeah, it's an interactive
like
experience.
Survivor, which are just gameplay, essentially.
Pure gameplay. Right. Yeah. So I think, I agree with the way Travis phrased it. I think it phrased well. So good question, Siddharth. And thank you. Mariano Pampa in the house.
$5 Pampa. Travis, have you checked out the new super duper update for Grounded? Also, everyone hit that like button on both channels. You guys are the best. Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't know.
Thank you for the comments. I cannot speak on Grounded right now, but I'm glad to see you still playing it.
One of many.
Speak on the thing that's released, not future content. They did the super duper.
I'm gonna play it safe and not talk about Grounded at all.
Travis isn't quite sure what the status of Grounded is for the rest of us.
Good idea.
Yeah. So that's a nondescript answer to your super chat, but thank you, Bob.
Sorry, Mariano, I love you, but ask me later.
Shoosh back again.
Gosh, Shoosh, going crazy. Excuse me. Looking at Diablo 4 progress, it is nice to finally see a healthy product. Confidence from Dr. Pepper. Confidence from both devs and players.
No doubt. Like we said, the positivity surrounding Diablo 4 right now is through the roof, and as I've already stated, this game's gonna crush it, 100%. So, Shoosh, thank you very much, and then shout out to Jeremy Morton as well, who gifted 5 memberships over on Seasoned Gaming side. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate it. All right, boys. Say it again.
We're missing some. We got a
missing somewhat
super chats.
I don't think we did. I just went through. Yeah.
The Halo panel, Sardanisms gave me a story.
No. Those are what I talked about. Those are the member comments.
The ones that you can't see. Gotcha.
I can't pull them up. Yeah, sorry about that. So it's just, I don't know if that's a problem with StreamYard or what, but apologies. I can't pull this up. Yeah. All right. I think that's going to wrap us up, boys. And we joke again about being a 3-hour show. We're at 2 hours and 20 minutes as it is. Hoeg, fantastic to have you with us for the entire show again this week, man. It's feeling mostly normal again, which is awesome.
I'm getting there.
I know that you continue with your progress of your series, episode 3, and this week on the 25th, so 2 days, I guess Tuesday, right? You're going to premiere a conversation with your physical therapist?
Yes, so I've been doing the interviews behind the scenes, as people would probably suspect. So I'm through a couple of those interviews. I've got one video ready and slated for Tuesday. I have to look at the timing for the other videos and then part 4 before we do a fundraiser for my hospitals on Saturday, May 6th.
Yes.
which we're really excited about. But yes, we have a conversation with my physical therapist up, and I'll probably get a placeholder for my conversation with my occupational therapist in a little bit. And yes, I do have them talk a little bit about what the differences are between the various therapies. And then I have an interview with my speech language pathologist that I haven't done yet, but I'll be up after that as well. So
I'm really looking forward to that one, honestly. I find that fascinating. I really do.
She's great. All my therapists are fantastic. So we're going to have that conversation. We're going to talk about speech and cognition with her. And those will all go up, I think, at some point in this coming business week. And then there'll be part 4 about outpatient and aftermath and what I'm dealing with and doctor's appointments and all those kinds of things the coming week. And then on that Saturday, we'll have the fundraiser. So a couple more weeks of stroke videos. And then we'll try to get back into normal business of doing law and tech videos because there's still stuff happening with Microsoft and Activision and things like that as they augur into a finale.
And Lawyers and Dragons back on May, what's it, 12th? Not 12th.
May question mark, I believe is our current announcement for Lawyers and Dragons.
question mark.
But not the 12th.
No, May 12th is Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know why that jumped in my head. But
Yeah,
coming back soon.
Or Server Slam, which good luck to them on that one.
Server Slam is the same day as Tears of the Kingdom? That's
yes, it is.
It is.
12 to
Yes,
14. Bizarre choice. But
it's all right. Diablo takes precedence. But Hoeg, thank you. Travis, what you got?
Okay, first, Sardinism wants me to guess her story, so I'm going to scroll up and look for it. Okay, so it's a mouse, a city. Aha, okay. I didn't have parents and grew up in a library, so this is definitely the book, The City Mouse and the Country Mouse, children's book that I have read. Got it in one. That was easy. Yeah, so...
no idea what's happening here.
What? I'm confident in my answer on that one. I
can't judge you. We don't have the emojis, so...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was like a mouse, a cityscape, a light bulb, and then some trees. And so I was like, all right.
I'm going to go with Brave Little Toaster.
Wrong. Sir.
I like it.
Yeah. So this week I've got... Wait, nope, but I like the guess. What? Really? Come on. I got that one. All right, fine. All right. Yeah, so this week I've got the Dead Island 2 review. Diablo 4 interview is up. I'm writing some other stuff. How much can I talk about? I'm not working on a review right now, so I'm working on some other stuff. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at TyGuyTravis, and I don't have a ton of stuff to promote this week except for
fun.
It's already publicly available.
Yeah, so I want to talk about.
Java asked a question about Hangouts and headlines and when it can come back, and I will say this. I'm pretty close to being able to do live streams on my channel pretty soon, but I can't really bring back Hangouts and Headlines, which was my morning show for those that don't know, until I'm done with rehab, because rehab just bounces all over the days and different times a day and different days of the week. And so I just can't set up anything on a regular schedule until we get through that. And I'm at least doing rehab through the end of May, and I would guess the end of June. So it'll be a little bit. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's a good update, though. Really looking forward to the show on May 6th. Hope that's a big turnout. I hope everyone listening to us here, of course, turns out, and make sure you share that out as well. On the Seasoned Gaming side, I had a few people reach out this week about Romancevania. I had an absolutely ridiculous week in my career work and some other things going on. I was on 2 shows yesterday, so I couldn't find a time to stream it. I will be back this week, though. We'll do stream number 3. We'll get back to pumpkin patching it, and we'll see where that takes us next.
By the way, my fiance is fascinated by your streams of Romancevania because she is the foremost preeminent expert on all things dating sim, and you know so little about dating sims that it's sort of a case study for her on, like, she's studying a different civilization. She's like, you know, when you started getting gifts and you didn't know what to do with them, and she was like, oh my God, he doesn't even know like this really like common mechanic about dating sims where you get a bunch of gifts and you have to figure out which one matches the person and that sort of stuff. So she's in
the Stardew Valley.
Yeah, she's very much enjoying your you know, insane kind of different gamer perspective on this series, and it's been fun to watch her see it. So.
Okay, yeah, people have had a good time with it, which is why I keep doing it, because the game itself is oof, it's nothing to write home about, but we are having fun with it regardless. So I'll be back on that. And then, of course, we've got not only Jedi Survivor coming this week, which we'll talk about next week. I'm sure that's going to be a big one for us to discuss because I think all 4 of us will be playing it. But also there's a little indie game that I'm very interested in that looks fantastic called The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which comes out this week. I might be reviewing that. I obviously don't want to talk about anything right
That's
now,
Gamecast, right?
It is launching on Game Pass the end of this week as well. Actually, Thursday, the day before Jedi. So we'll talk about that next week as well, but stay tuned. I may have more on that by next week.
Hope I can beat it in one day because once Jedi comes out.
Yeah. So, but anyway, thank you, chat. You're awesome as always. Thank you for supporting both channels. All the same spiel we give here, supporting both channels, clicking that like on both sides, and just generally helping us. We hope you had a good Sunday with us, audio listeners. Thank you as always. We saw a huge uptick in audio listeners like a week and a half ago, for the past couple weeks, I should say, which is cool. So, thank you for that as well. If you do enjoy us on the audio side, please, like you do the same equivalent to likes on YouTube, please leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, wherever you watch. It definitely helps a lot with the algorithm there. So we would appreciate that. But otherwise, hope everyone has a fantastic week. We will see you next Sunday, of course. And thank you as always for hanging out with us. Until next week.